now.
Good evening. I want to call this meeting of the Durham City Council to order at 7 o'clock on Monday night, May the 17th. And I certainly want to welcome everyone here tonight, all my wonderful colleagues, our fabulous city staff, and all those who are attending in one way or another or listening to our meeting being streamed. We are so glad to have you with us tonight. As we prepare for our meeting together today, this evening, and being together and doing the work that we all need to do and do well together, I ask you to please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Councilmember Reese, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I will. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council colleagues, city staff, and folks watching virtually. I will now say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Council Member. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Schul.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Caballero.
Here.
Councilmember Freelon.
Here.
Councilmember Freeman.
Present.
Councilmember Middleton.
I am here.
Councilmember Reese.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Colleagues, we'll now move to ceremonial items. We will begin with the Durham Recovery and Renewal Task Force recognition of service. And I believe that we have a slide that is going to come up in a moment. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, I don't have a slide for that.
Okay. All right, I am going to, are Matisha Sims and Katie Galbraith here with us? And if so, can they be made available to be heard and seen?
This is Katie.
Katie, how are you? And Matisha, are you here as well? Let's see.
Yes, I'm here.
Great.
I was actually muted.
Oh, good. Well, we're glad to have you, Ms. Sims, Ms. Galbraith. I want to we are here for the recognition of the Durham Recovery and Renewal Task Force. And I want to just say on behalf of all of us, a huge thank you to you and to all the members of the task force for the incredible work that you've done, and to you two in particular, for the amazing leadership that you have given this work. As I said, we had the final meeting on Friday of the task force. And as I said then, I feel that of all the work that I've been involved in my public life, this was definitely one of the most amazing efforts and one of the absolute most important efforts, and so well done. And it looks like, I believe that Mayor Pro Tem Johnson has put the slide up for us. Thank you so much. So you can see here the Durham Recovery Renewal Task Force, the co-chairs, Katie Galbraith and Matisha Sims, who are with us here today. And then the task force members, many of whom we hope are listening in. And you can see that this was just an amazing group of people. I'm going to read their names: Susan Amy, Ed Boyd, C.C. Croxton, Dr. Herbert Reynolds Davis, Lois DeLoach, Jeff Durham, George Habel, Phil Harewood, Rodney Jenkins, Dr. Ibukin Kalu, Anthony Nelson, Jody Miller, Eleazar Posada, Pilar Rocha Goldberg, and Nicole Thompson. All of them gave just fantastic service for a year. And it was an amazing group. And then we had staff, our own city staff, Ryan Smith, Amber Wade, Anna Davis, Shannon Delaney, Brian Fox from the Chamber of Commerce, who worked with our roundtables, did a great job. Drew Cummings and Curtis Massey from the county, along with Jody Miller, who represented the county on the task force. And the Center for Advanced Hindsight, Marielle Beasley and Judson Bonnick, and then Mary Grace Stone King, an intern from the Sanford School, who did such a wonderful job recruiting so many students to help us with all these research projects. And it was just truly, it was truly an amazing effort. I particularly, again, want to thank Ms. Galbraith and Ms. Sims. You all took on a mammoth task on behalf of our community leading this effort. And you did it with so much wisdom, so much care, so much hard work. You pulled together a very disparate group and helped them come together on a common purpose, and then helped create this fabulous group of roundtables from all various industries and walks of life in our community, and that work is still ongoing. So thank you on behalf of a grateful community. And now, Ms. Galbraith and Ms. Sims, I'd like to offer each of you all an opportunity to say a few words. And Madam Mayor Pro Tem, you can pull the slide down. Thank you. Ms. Sims, do you want to start?
Sure. So good evening, Mayor Schewel, Pro Tem Johnson, City Council. So I am just thankful that Mayor Schewel and Commissioner Jacobs had the foresight to pull together such a group to support Durham as we dealt with, for the first time, a pandemic in all of our lifetimes. It has been truly a year of hard work. I want to personally thank Mayor Schewel for providing me with this opportunity to lead in the Durham community and to serve alongside Katie, who was an amazing co-chair. And as you saw on the slide, there were so many people who supported the task force. It truly took a village for us to get done all the work that we've gotten done over the past year. And finally, I want to say thank you, City Council, for all of the support that you provided to the task force. Whether you did that by participating in our roundtables, joining our meetings on Fridays and engaging with your questions or comments, supporting the budget proposals that we brought forth, as well as maybe you just silently nodded your head as we were doing our work. So I'm thankful to the City Council for your great support and thankful for the village that came together to help us do all of the work that we did over the past year. And I'm truly honored to have served in this role. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sims. And Ms. Galbraith, would you like to add some comments?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I also want to thank you and thank the City Council for all of your support and really for pulling this group together. As Matisha said, it is, I share your sentiment that you said earlier about this being sort of the most important, most meaningful work. It's certainly been some of the most challenging and rewarding work that I've done in my career. And it has been a truly amazing group of leaders. And I could not have done it without Matisha as co-chair. I think we were a wonderful pair and team, and just every single one of the task force members gave so much of themselves and so much of their time, their talent, their energy, their creativity and creative solutions to really support this community through what I hope will be truly the pandemic of a lifetime, because I hope that we never have to go through something else like this again in our lifetimes. But I do know that Durham is well prepared. And I also want to thank all of the Durham residents, because I am so proud of Durham. I am so proud of the way this city and county have come together really to support everyone in the community with a focus on making sure that every individual gets the support that they need to make it through this pandemic, and supporting those most vulnerable, those traditionally most disproportionately impacted. And I could not be more proud of where Durham is today, and all of the Durham residents for everything that they've done over the last 14 months. So thank you so much. It has truly been an honor.
Thank you all both so much. We appreciate you. And I just want to add that I'm glad you're finally relieved of chairing this group. I know it's been a heck of a go. I know that you all deserve a little rest from this work. And so much gratitude. Thank you all very much. And I know that the work of the task force continues in some forms, but your job as co-chairs is done, and you've just done an amazing job. So thank you, and thank you to all of the members. All right, colleagues, we're now going to move to our second item, and this is Period Awareness Week. And Mayor Pro Tem Johnson is going to do the honors with this proclamation. Michelle Old, Executive Director of the Diaper Bank of North Carolina, is going to be making a few remarks after Mayor Pro Tem Johnson reads the proclamation. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This proclamation is for Period Poverty Awareness Week. Whereas approximately half of the population will have a period every month for decades of their lives, and whereas national surveys and research studies report that 1 in 4 women and girls struggle to secure enough period supplies to meet their needs each month due to a lack of income. And whereas this lack of period supplies, known as period poverty, can adversely affect the health and well-being of menstruators. And whereas national surveys also report that 1 in 5 women and girls miss work or school due to lacking a sufficient amount of period supplies. And whereas period poverty exacerbates the vicious cycle of poverty by forcing menstruators to withdraw from daily life, losing pay, or missing educational opportunities. And whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has forced millions of people out of work and greatly increased those struggling with period poverty. And whereas the people of Durham recognize that period poverty is a public health issue, and addressing period poverty can lead to economic opportunity for Durham's people and improved health for women and girls, thus ensuring all people have access to the basic necessities required to thrive and reach their full potential. And whereas Durham is proud to be home to trusted community-based organizations, including On the Spot, a program of the Diaper Bank of North Carolina that recognized the importance of period products in ensuring health and providing economic stability. And whereas these period supply banks and their staff and volunteers served on the front lines of Durham's COVID-19 pandemic response, helping families in our community weather the crisis. Now, therefore, I, Stephen M. Schul, do hereby proclaim the week of May 24th through May 30th, 2021 as Period Poverty Awareness Week in Durham, and hereby urge all residents to thank the aforementioned period supply banks, their staff, volunteers, and donors for their courageous service during the crisis, and encourage residents to donate generously to supply banks. Witness my hand in the corporate seal of the City of Durham, North Carolina, the 17th day of May, 2021.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you.
Is Ms. Old available to be heard, Madam Clerk?
Yes, I'm here.
Ms. Old, welcome. And we would enjoy hearing some comments from you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. You know, the diaper bank, I started it in 2013 from my kitchen table, just focused on diapers in Durham. But we quickly realized the need for period products throughout the state. We now distribute over 1 million period products statewide. And, you know, all of us had a little bit of taste of what it felt like to not have a basic item need when the pandemic hit and we were scrambling to find toilet paper. Menstruating individuals experience this every single day in Durham. And we have seen an 800% increase in requests for period products in Durham alone. We thought those numbers would go down because we distribute through all of Durham public schools. So girls do not have to choose between having their period or going to school. And we thought for sure those numbers were going to go down, but 100% of the time, if someone is struggling for food, then they're struggling for basic hygiene items, 100%. WIC and food stamps do not cover them, and there's no support for them. We did the math, and it costs between $70 and $120 per person a year. Also, many don't realize there is a luxury tax on period products in North Carolina. So menstruating individuals actually pay more to have their period every single month. So I encourage you to donate to any distribution method that's distributing period products. We distribute them through homeless shelters, food banks, home visiting programs, Duke clinics, and a number of other nonprofits that are working with families living in poverty. We also started a program called NC Stomp. It's to end the luxury tax on period products. It's to value dignity items for menstruating individuals, and it's to end period poverty in North Carolina. And you can find out more information there at ncstomp.org.
Ms. Old, thank you so much. I have been to the diaper bank when it was just a little tiny room, and I have been to the amazing warehouse that you have now, and just have incredible admiration for the work you've done, and really appreciate that you've extended this work now to period products. So I think it would be great if you would send us the link to NC Stomp as well. That will be great. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
We'll now move to our next item, the next proclamation, and this is Tourette Syndrome Awareness Day. I'm going to read this proclamation, and then we're going to have Chelsea Fiebich, and I'm not sure I have that name right, who will be making remarks, and she's accompanied by her mother, Catherine Fiebich, who will also be present tonight. But let me first begin by reading the proclamation. Whereas Tourette syndrome is an inherited neurological disorder that is characterized by involuntary physical and vocal tics that occur many times a day. And whereas Tourette syndrome is often accompanied by other mental health disorders such as attention deficit and obsessive compulsive disorder, learning disabilities, and anxiety. And whereas Tourette syndrome and tic disorders affect 1 in 100 children, more than 22,800 school-age children in the state of North Carolina alone are dealing with Tourette syndrome. And although some of these cases are aided by medication, there is no standard treatment or known cure for the disorder. And whereas there is an important need for more professional help with interest and expertise to identify, counsel, and treat people with Tourette syndrome, a disorder that is often misdiagnosed and misunderstood. And whereas the Tourette Association's Greater Carolinas group are actively providing services to families, educating medical professionals and teachers, and supporting research to better understand the signs and treatments of TS. Now, therefore, I, Stephen M. Schewel, Mayor of the City of Durham, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim June the 4th, 2021, as Tourette Syndrome Awareness Day in Durham, and hereby urge all residents to demonstrate understanding, compassion, and acceptance for all of our fellow residents who deserve and need our support to break the stigma that surrounds Tourette syndrome. Witness my hand the corporate seal of the City of Durham, North Carolina, this, the 17th day of May, 2021, signed Stephen M. Schewel, Mayor. And now I'm going to ask Chelsea Fiebich if she would like to say a few words to us. And Madam Clerk, can you make Ms. Fiebich available to be heard, please?
I think they can hear you. Okay, hello, sir. This is a really great stride in awareness for people with disabilities. I think that this is an excellent step in North Carolina's acceptance and
awareness. Yeah. Thank you so much for inviting us and having us here today. It is important for people to try to understand a little bit more about Tourette syndrome. It's more than just what you might see on TV. And we appreciate this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Febich, and Chelsea Febich as well. We're so glad that you were here today. We are very, it's great for us to get this education and to educate our community. And I'm so grateful for you all for being with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We will now move to our final proclamation of the evening. And this is Mental Health Awareness Month. And Councilmember Freeman is going to be reading this proclamation. I'm not sure if we have a recipient present. Do we know? I see the clerk thinks we do not have a recipient present.
I know that Jackie Pilgrim with NAMI was supposed to be, I'm not sure if the link was shared with her.
Okay.
But I can accept it and
that would be great.
share it
That
with
would be
her.
great. Yeah, that would be great, Councilmember. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I'm just acknowledging that May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I appreciate each year the opportunity to acknowledge just how much mental health, not just awareness, but just activating folks' knowledge around it is important. And just a proclamation. Whereas Mental Health Awareness Month is part of a nationwide effort in the month of May to reduce the stigma and discrimination surrounding mental health challenges and to increase awareness of tools and resources to prevent such challenges and reduce the symptoms. And whereas 1 in 5 adults experience mental health problems in any given year, and 1 in 16 adults experience serious mental illness. And whereas mental health is part of the overall health and helps to sustain an individual's thought processes, relationships, productivity, and ability to adapt to change or face adversity. Yet we too often think about mental health differently than other health issues. And whereas, like other diseases, mental illness can be successfully treated, and thus we must build an open dialogue that encourages, supports, and respects with respect for those struggling with mental illness. And whereas a combination of medication, therapy, and recovery supports are highly effective, allowing people to maintain their quality of life and their involvement with their families and communities. And whereas the National Alliance on Mental Illness of North Carolina, through its local affiliation, NAMI Durham County, serves individuals and families living with mental illness. Now, therefore, I, Stephen M. Schul, Mayor of the City of Durham, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim May 2021 as National Mental Health Awareness Month in Durham, and hereby urge all Durham residents to recommit our community to increase awareness and understanding of mental illness, improve the array of mental health services where consumers for all ages, expand the supply of affordable housing for people living with mental illness, and ensure those who are struggling to know they are not alone. Witness my hand on the corporate seal of the City of Durham, North Carolina, this 17th day of May, 2021. And just a note of thanks for the mayor and acknowledging May as Mental Health Awareness Month, acknowledging that this is such a huge disconnect for some people. I want to make sure that we do address it, acknowledging how COVID has had an impact. And on Wednesday of this week, I hope to be presenting or sharing a mental health check-in with some folks at a town hall session around mental health awareness during COVID, especially in the Black community. So hopefully you all can join us. And I will make sure to get this out to Miss Jackie Pilgrim with NAMI Durham.
Thank you very much, Council Member. That was a very, very important proclamation, and we've heard it said many times that many people say there are 3 pandemics we've experienced. We've experienced the physical health pandemic, we've experienced the economic pandemic, and now we are experiencing the mental health pandemic. So thank you so much for, again, raising our awareness of this. All right, colleagues, we're now going to move to announcements by members of the council. Councilmember Caballero.
I just wanted to share with our community. I know many folks have already seen, but there are now walk-in appointments at Wheels for all Durham residents 12 and over. You do not need an appointment. I know also Duke is taking appointments at the Karsh Alumni Center. Last Friday, when I took my children to get their first round of vaccine, it was full of kids and it was beautiful to see. So I hope that people take advantage and we continue to vaccinate at a higher rate in Durham.
Thank you, Council Member. Other announcements tonight? Council Member Reese.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, colleagues. It's great to be with you again. Just real quick, I know we've got quite a meeting ahead of us, so I just wanted to remind folks that this is May is a bike month here in Durham and around the country. And this week is the 2021 Ride of Silence. This coming Wednesday, May 19th at 6 p.m. starting downtown at CCB Plaza. The Ride of Silence is a global event designated and designed to commemorate cyclists injured or killed each year and to raise awareness of the need to share the road safely. This will be the 19th observance of the Ride of Silence. And I will be at the start of the event. I will probably not be participating this year because of my troublesome knee injury, but I will be there and hope to see members of our community there. Also, the ride itself is always a really, it's sobering, but it's also affirming to be riding with folks in that setting. And so just wanted to put a play for that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Council Member. Any further announcements tonight? Councilmember Middleton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Good to see all of you. There's some very persistent constituents that would have me also acknowledge that May is also Older Americans Month. I know that we have a lot of things stacked up in a lot of different months, but want to send a shout out to all of our older Americans, not you, Steve, you don't qualify yet. Older American Month, so we will celebrate all of the incredible contributions that I hope to be in that club. Anybody that doesn't want to be in that club one day just doesn't get the way life works. So we salute and celebrate Older Americans Month this May. Mr. Mayor, I wanted to say very quickly, this past week, I had an opportunity to celebrate the vibrancy and attractiveness of Durham, attended 2 ribbon cuttings, actually literally within walking distance of my home. I'm sitting here in Southeast Durham right at Research Triangle Park, and I'm watching not only my taxes go up, but the neighborhood change immensely around me. And I want to celebrate 2 things. Went to a ribbon cutting for Merritt TW Crossing, a light industrial and flex space that's just opened up, and then went to a ribbon cutting that the governor attended for Turgis Pharmaceuticals, which is one of the leading pharmaceutical companies in America, United States of America, for topical treatments of skin disorders. Literally a neighbor within walking distance of here, and I was reminded of the vibrancy and how economically exciting Durham is in this particular part of the city. I know that the southeastern part of our city is going to receive attention as we look at our comp plan and as we move forward, how to use land here and how to do a bunch of stuff that's good for the city. But I had a polar point moment as well, because we also had a number of shootings last week here in our city. And I've just reminded of how vibrant and exciting and desirable we are on one hand, but how much work needs to be done on the other hand. And particularly tonight, I want to send heartfelt thoughts out to victims of gun violence. It struck particularly close this last week. One of the people that were killed last week in our city is the brother of a member of my church, whose wedding I'll be performing this summer. So it hit particularly close. So I want to send not only to that family, but to all families who have been struck and affected by gun violence in our city. Durham is the bomb. Durham is the greatest city. Everybody wants to be here for good reason. But those of us in leadership and those of us who are blessed, who have these platforms, know that until all of us can celebrate, our celebrations will be muted, and that we've still got a lot of work to do to bring all of our folk into participating in how great Durham is. Just a couple of miles from those ribbon cuttings, these shootings have been occurring. They are no longer contained to late night or the wee hours of the morning. They're becoming more brazen, and the caliber of weapons are becoming more impressive as well. We've got work to do as a city. While there's much to celebrate, there's much to be done as well. And I just want to encourage us, starting with me, to redouble our efforts to make sure that with all of the great things, particularly economically, going on in Durham, and as we open back up, it's only going to be more impressive as we come back out of this pandemic, that there are folk that are still in the throes and folk that are still dealing with things that they dealt with before the pandemic and will still be there afterwards. Our work on vaccine equity is important. I'm excited that that's going forward, but I just want to remind us as a government to keep vigilance for those who still need to share in our prosperity economically. So congratulations on the ribbon cuttings, but let's get to work on the other matters as well and stay engaged. Thank you, friends. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Council Member. Any further announcements, colleagues? Councilmember Freeman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, colleagues, for covering just about all of my areas, except for the older American. I didn't have that one on my list. I just wanted to just take a moment and just note, I believe our our Office of Equity and Inclusion has a Fuse Fellowship out, and I just want to make sure that we're spreading far and wide, that the 2 fellowship opportunities are taking applications right now, and they're expecting to start interviews very soon. And I really, really want to make sure that a lot of people are made aware so that they can apply if they're interested. And this operationalizing a collective strategy to advance racial equity, mainly because this is like the area that I live in our community, and I am looking forward to seeing what comes out of it. I do want to note that it wasn't shared as publicly the rate that would be at, but I do believe that it's about $80K and it's negotiable just based on how the Fuse Fellowship is set up. So I want to make sure that that is out there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Council Member. Are there any further announcements, colleagues? All right, thank you very much. We'll now move to priority items by the City Manager. Madam Manager.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, members of the Durham City Council. I do have several priority items for you this evening. Agenda item number 14, Design Build Services Contract with Dewberry Design Builders, Inc. for the Durham Bulls Athletic Park. Pursuant to Council's request, additional information has been provided in attachment number 4. Agenda item number 15, land donation agreement for replacement of fire station number 19. Pursuant to Council's request, additional information has been provided in attachment number 9. Agenda item number 23, fiscal year 2021-22, proposed budget and fiscal year 2022 through 2027 capital improvement plan. A presentation will be provided. And finally, agenda item number 28, consolidated annexation item, Olive Branch West 2, attachment number 1 was updated. That is all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Madam Manager. Madam Attorney, do you have any priority items tonight?
Good evening, Mayor Schul, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the City Council. The City Attorney's Office does not have any priority items this evening.
Thank you very much, Madam Attorney. Madam Clerk, are there any priority items tonight?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, and City Council members. The City Clerk's Office has no priority items this evening.
Thank you. Colleagues, we'll now move to the consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of items that the council has been previously worked on. It can be approved by a single vote of the council. If an item is pulled from the consent agenda by a member of the council or a member of the public, it will be held until the end of the meeting for consideration. I'll now read the consent agenda items. Item 1, approval of City Council minutes. Item 2, Durham Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission appointments. Item 3, Durham City County Appearance Commission appointment. Item 4, Durham City County Appearance Commission appointment. Item 5, 2020 Durham City County Appearance Commission Annual Report. Item 6, 2020 Durham Open Space and Trails Annual Report. Item 7, Temporary Outdoor Seating Ordinance Extension. Item 8, Electric Service Agreement to the for the North Durham Water Reclamation Facility. Item 9, Sanitary Sewer Inspection and Cleaning Services Award to Hydro Structures Professional Association. Item 10, Bid Report, March 2021. Item 11, construction contract with Inclined Construction, Inc. for the Durham Convention Center repair project. Item 12, purchase contract with Store Office Environments, Inc. for the Durham Convention Center repair project. Item 13, contract amendment with CMTA, Inc. for the Durham Performing Arts Center DPAC HVAC project. Item 14, design build services contract with Dewberry Design Builders, Inc. for the Durham Bros Athletic Park DBAP. Item 15, land donation agreement for replacement of fire station number 19. Item 16, contract for Live Well of City of Durham WebMD1 platform. Item 17, fiscal year 21-22, agreement to fund economic development programs and services operated by Downtown Durham, Inc. using City of Durham funds. Item 18, First Amendment to contract with Mid-Atlantic Associates, Inc. for professional services related to implementation of the 2018 United States Environmental Protection Agency Brownfields Assessment Grant. Item 19, 2019 Sewer Repairs Program, City Contract number 16249, Amendment number 1. Item 20, Contract ST 314 Pavement Condition Survey 2021. Item 21, resolution to support the Upper Neuse River Basin Association, UNRBA, FY 2022 budget. Item 22, street and infrastructure acceptances and deletions. Item 26, 2020-2021 Downtown Durham Municipal Service District Annual Report. Item 32, creation and implementation of a program to support achieving vaccine equity. Before I ask for a motion on these, colleagues, I do want to remind you of the memo that changes today in the vaccine equity that you received. Instead of designating an nonprofit to be the administrator of this, it calls for an RFP process. So that's our consent agenda, and I will accept a motion for its approval.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Reese and seconded by Councilmember Caballero that we approve the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Mayor, I have a quick question.
Sure.
Discussion regarding the RFP process, which of course I'm in favor of for the vaccine equity. How do we envision that impacting how soon we'll be able to roll the program out?
It will make it slower. It will make it slower, and maybe should we pull? Why don't we pull the item? We'll do it. We'll have. I think it'd be better to have the discussion.
Okay, sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, no problem. No, absolutely. It's not your fault. It's not. It's no problem. It's good. Let's do it. So, with the exception of that item, which we'll hold to the end of the meeting for discussion, because other people may have questions as well. I just think it makes more sense to do that. So, for the other items on the consent agenda, we have a motion by Councilmember Reese and a seconded by Councilmember Caballero. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Schul.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Caballero.
Aye.
Councilmember Freelon.
Aye.
Councilmember Freeman.
Aye.
Councilmember Middleton.
I vote aye.
Councilmember Reese.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Colleagues, we'll now are going to move into one of the most important items of the year. And this is the proposed budget and capital improvement plan. The presentation from our new city manager, Wanda Page, who will be making her first budget presentation. We know a lot about this budget. We've been informed in individual meetings and in small group meetings by the manager. But this is always an exciting night for us and for our community, and a super important night to hear what the manager, her priorities, and what has finally come out of this long budget process. So, Madam Manager, welcome, and we're excited. And I see you're at City Hall to make this presentation. So we're so glad to have you with us tonight for your budget presentation. It's all yours.
Mayor Schul, Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, members of the Durham City Council, city staff, and residents of Durham.
As your city manager, I am honored to be before you this evening to present my first proposed budget for the city of Durham. When I think about the past year and everything we've been through as a community and a country, it really feels more like a decade. We've faced so many unprecedented challenges, and historic events, from a global pandemic and financial uncertainty to social unrest and political division. But in recent months, we've seen signs of hope. COVID-19 infection rates are on a downward trend. Vaccinations are readily available. Many restrictions have been lifted, and there is a feeling of opportunity for big change. One moment of inspiration that stands out to me is the poem written and read by Amanda Gorman, the youngest inaugural poet in U.S. history. She has a way with words that reveals a wisdom beyond her 23 years. The final line in her poem says, "For there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it." That is the theme of positivity and hope that I share with you tonight. We are at a moment of opportunity for great change for our community. As you will see in this presentation, we have many important priorities and ambitious initiatives, from community safety to affordable housing to COVID-19 recovery. We have a lot we want to do. We have a lot we need to do. I have confidence that we can make real progress to make Durham the progressive and inclusive city we strive to be. It's going to take a lot of hard work, determination, collaboration, and innovation. We have to be willing to take it on. We have to be willing to make bold moves. I encourage our leaders, employees, and our community members to be the light, the spark, the fire that moves us forward as a community, and to see the light in each other. We can never forget that we are all in this together. I thank Amanda Gorman for her inspirational words. Mayor Schewel and City Council members played a vital role in providing guidance as we discussed strategic plan goals and the entire budget development process, and will soon be asked to adopt the updated capital improvement plan in conjunction with the upcoming fiscal year's budget. As always, thank you for your continued support and dedication to our city. This time last year, we were still in the early months of COVID-19 and facing a lot of unknowns around the financial impact of the pandemic. While we did experience significant revenue losses, we've also seen gains that leave us in a better place than we might have expected. Let's start by looking at the key numbers proposed for fiscal year 2021-2022. The total recommended budget for fiscal year 2021-2022 is $524.6 million. That is a 4.38% increase from last year. This is primarily due to increases in the dedicated housing fund for affordable housing initiatives, the Stormwater fund for infrastructure improvements, and the transit fund for transportation services and enhancements. The proposed general fund budget, which covers the city's core services, such as roads, parks, public safety, and more, is $235.6 million, which is a 9.8% increase from last year. The property tax rate is proposed at 55.17 cents per 100 of assessed value, which is 2 cents above the current combined tax rate of 53.17 cents. This will generate $15.2 million in additional revenue compared to the current fiscal year. Of this 2 cents increase, 1.38 cents will service the debt for the $95 million affordable housing bond that voters passed in 2019. A 0.5 cent increase to the debt service fund to fund green and equitable infrastructure projects, and the remaining 0.12 cent will go to the general fund. What this means for the average homeowner is a city tax bill of about $1,291 per year, or about $108 per month, on a house valued at the median house value in Durham of $233,927. Several fee changes are also in this proposed budget, including a water rate increase approved at the May 3rd City Council meeting and a stormwater rate increase to be voted on as part of tonight's agenda. Customers will see an average water rate increase of about 3.6% and an average stormwater rate increase of 51 cents per month. In addition, the City County Planning Department has proposed a variety of new fees and fee increases related to development, zoning, and permits to more accurately reflect the amount of work being performed and to simplify the digital payment process for applicants. Other minor fee increases for water management and solid waste are also included in the proposed budget. Proposed general fund expenditures include increases for personnel costs and pay increases, and expenditures related to departmental budget requests. The city's fund balance helps safeguard against economic uncertainty and emergencies in the future. Our fund balance, developed and responsibly maintained over the years, has helped us weather the financial storms of the past year. And I am proud to share that the city continues to enjoy an outstanding credit rating by all of the rating agencies, due in part to sound fiscal management and a strong fund balance. The proposed general fund budget uses $10.2 million of fund balance to cover a variety of one-time costs, as shown here on this slide. Our complete budget document covers every detail of our revenue and spending for the coming fiscal year. This includes our core municipal services, such as roads, water, parks, and public safety, as well as the projects and initiatives that further our strategic goals. We have used a strategic plan developed with input from our employees, our residents, elected officials, and other key stakeholders to guide our budget priorities. In tonight's presentation, I will focus on several key priority areas for our organization and our community. They are community safety, affordable housing, COVID-19 recovery, employee compensation, and our capital improvement program. Equitable engagement is a foundation for how we conduct our work. And through this engagement, we have listened to our diverse community members to identify their needs and priorities for how their tax dollars should be spent this coming fiscal year and beyond. Despite the pandemic, we were able to host virtual budget engagement events, find new ways to educate the public about the budget process, and as always, gather vital feedback through the annual resident survey to inform our budget priorities. Because we can't cover every aspect of the budget tonight, I encourage you to review the complete proposed budget that is now available on our website at durhamnc.gov/budget. First, I want to recognize and thank all of our essential public safety employees who work around the clock to keep us safe every day, including throughout the pandemic. The police department, the fire department, and emergency communications 911 center. This is not a small task. It takes great strength and courage to step up day in and day out to protect and serve our community. And I commend all of you for rising to this challenge, even in these difficult times. One of the highest priority areas we think about and work on daily is how best to keep all of the residents of this city safe, and well. It is no secret that there is great concern about violent crime in Durham, like many other cities in America. At the same time, there are concerns about the history of policing in our country and the impact on people of color. Right now, Durham has an opportunity to lead the way in finding new, equitable, and innovative ways to keep our communities safe and well. We still need policing to help protect our community, but we also need to find alternative ways to address issues that don't necessarily need a law enforcement response. We want to be a part of this reform with the goal of saving lives. The proposed budget includes the creation of a new community safety department, which will work to enhance public safety through community-centered approaches to prevention and intervention as alternatives to policing and the criminal legal system. The new department will work closely with our existing public safety departments, police, fire, and emergency communications, helping them to focus on the work they are best trained for and equipped to handle, while helping us reimagine the way we keep our community safe and well. The department will also serve as the city's main staffing resource and support for the work of the Community Safety and Wellness Task Force. Based on Research Triangle Institute's research, including a 3-year 911 call data survey, use of force analysis, Durham police officer focus groups, and input from City Council, the new Community Safety Department will implement pilot projects to explore alternative responses to issues that may not need an armed police presence and build upon our success. This department will also take on oversight and management of the city's over $1 million investment in programs, including the Bull City United Violence Interruption Program, Project Build, and Gang Intervention Strategy Initiative, which are all partnerships with Durham County government. The new department of 15 will be staffed through a combination of new position requests, current vacancies, and contract positions. In order to be the equitable and inclusive community that we want to be, we need to continue to make progress on affordable housing. Last month, we saw the opening of the Willard Street Apartments in downtown Durham, a community that is setting a new standard for affordable housing and an example of what we can accomplish through the Affordable Housing Bond. As mentioned previously, 1.38 cents of the proposed property tax increase will go to the dedicated housing fund for debt service on the $95 million affordable housing bond that was approved by voters in 2019. A proposed budget of $12.7 million dedicated to affordable housing is a $5.4 million increase over last year's budget of $7.4 million. This proposed budget also includes $500,000 to support a Durham County long-time homeowner tax grant program for residents at or below 30% of the area median income. The program would award grants to qualifying recipients to help reduce the amount of property taxes due. Forever Home Durham is our $160 million program creating affordable opportunities for renters and homeowners. Through new construction, property repairs, and essential housing services, we're building a more inclusive and livable community. Over the next several years, the $95 million affordable housing bond, combined with local and federal funding, will be used to invest in a total of $160 million to reach our goals that are listed on this slide. 2 full-time employees will be added to support the Affordable Housing Plan, and the Durham Housing Authority will be one of our primary partners in implementing this program. know, the pandemic has created unprecedented challenges for our residents, our business owners, and our organization. Through a combination of local and federal funding, including $2.9 million from the CARES Act and $5 million in city funds, we've implemented various relief programs and plan to continue this support in fiscal year 21-22 with $50 million from the American Rescue Plan. As you can see on this slide, we funded or proposed to fund a variety of programs and services to support our residents during the pandemic and beyond. And these are just a few of them, and it is just the beginning. We've also funded a number of services and programs to support our business community, and this slide shows just a few of them. To support our transit operations, in fiscal year 2020-2021, the Transit Fund received $12 million in CARES Act funding and is expected to receive another $11 million in federal funding in fiscal year 2021-2022. During the pandemic, we suspended the collection of fares for bus service. As we continue to recover from the pandemic, I am happy to share that this additional funding will allow us to continue to provide fare-free bus service for all Go Durham riders through the end of the upcoming fiscal year. As I mentioned earlier in this presentation, during the past year, the city's total revenue loss due to COVID-19 is significant at over $8.1 million. This is due to losses in areas including solid waste and parking services, ballpark and convention center operations, and a drop in revenues associated with travel and recreation, which were impacted by the pandemic. To help the city's long-term recovery, I am proposing the use of American Rescue Plan funds to recover this lost revenue. We were fortunate that sales tax remained strong and offset some of the losses, and I am hopeful that Durham's local economy will come back even stronger than ever as we continue our collective efforts to return to normalcy in our post-pandemic lives. Our employees are essential if we are to implement the vision set forth in this budget. And we want to show these dedicated employees that we value their work and contributions to our organization and our community. These employees have worked tirelessly throughout the pandemic, doing the critical work that keeps our city running, from emergency response to water and sewer management, to solid waste collection, and more. To reward this amazing effort, I am recommending the use of COVID-19 relief funding to provide 5% premium pay for our city's essential frontline employees, retroactive for fiscal year 2020-2021. Last year, due to the unknown of COVID-19, we suspended salary increases and bonuses to all of our employees. I am happy to report that we are recommending market rate salary adjustments and bonuses in fiscal year 2021-2022. General employees will be eligible for a 2% pay increase. Sworn personnel will receive increases based on their pay plans, with police receiving a 4% increase and fire receiving a 3.5% increase. All employees, both general and sworn, will also receive a bonus of $1,000 to $1,500 based on their salary levels. To meet the growing needs of our organization and community, this proposed budget also includes the addition of 34 new full-time employee positions in several areas. Some of the departments that must grow in order to support the needs of the community include solid waste management, fire, water management, neighborhood improvement services, and parks and recreation, along with our new community safety department. I also want to highlight several new positions that will help us to be a more equitable and inclusive organization and community. A new language access plan coordinator is proposed to help ensure equitable engagement and improve access to the city's programs and services for our community members with limited English proficiency. In January, City Council approved a new non-discrimination ordinance that will become effective on July 1st. The Human Relations Division will enforce the new ordinance, which continues to prohibit discrimination in housing. It adds employment and public accommodations and expands protected classes to include military status, sexual orientation, gender identity, and protected hairstyles. In addition to adopting the proposed budget, City Council will also soon adopt our updated capital improvement plan, which guides our long-term capital projects, such as infrastructure and facilities. While the proposed CIP update will be presented during the upcoming budget work sessions, some of the new proposed capital projects are noted on the next 3 slides. Here is a short summary of our enterprise capital projects, including water and sewer, stormwater, and solid waste projects. I am also proposing that we continue our capital commitments for our fleet replacement program, for street maintenance and repaving, and for maintenance to the city's capital structures. Additionally, 1/2 cent of the proposed property tax increase, as noted previously, is proposed to be used to create new capital funding to support green infrastructure projects that will be developed through an equity lens after a process is developed in the coming year to identify and prioritize these new projects. Now that I've presented highlights from the proposed budget, it's time for our elected leadership and community members to take a closer look. City Council and staff will review the details at next week's budget work sessions on May 26th and May 27th, beginning at 9 a.m. each day. These virtual work sessions will be live streamed to our YouTube channel to enable as many people as possible to watch our departmental budget presentations. Our residents are encouraged to share their thoughts at our virtual public hearing, which will take place during the June 7th City Council meeting beginning at 7 p.m. We remain committed to transparency in the budget as well as in total operations. Therefore, the complete proposed budget is now available for your review on the city's website at durhamnc.gov/budget. I also want to encourage you, our residents, to continue to engage with us on our social media channels. We work hard to communicate what we are doing on these pages and want to engage with you there. Developing the budget is always a collaborative process, relying on the groundwork of long-term financial and strategic plans, and at the same time, trying to predict what the future holds. Special recognition goes to our budget and management services team, along with all of our department directors for their leadership to ensure that our strategic plan guides and aligns with budget priorities as well as our growing community needs. I also want to recognize our public affairs team, who always do a great job helping to develop this presentation every year. We have a lot of ambitious proposals and initiatives to make progress on our priorities and to continue COVID-19 recovery for our community and our organization. With this budget and the support of our elected leaders, our employees, and our community members, I am confident that we can make real progress while exploring new approaches to our most pressing challenges. In the words of Amanda Gorman, let's embrace this opportunity to see the light and be the light so that we can create the best future for Durham. Thank you.
Budget address. Well done. Thank you. Colleagues, before we, I'm going to ask if there are any comments. Of course, this is just our first, we've heard this officially the first time, and we'll have a public hearing, budget workshops, and so forth. But before I ask if there are any comments by colleagues, I do have one person who signed up to speak on this, who is Ms. Hillary Ensminger. Madam Clerk, I do not see Ms. Ensminger. However, do you in the attendees list?
No, Mr. Mayor, I don't see Ms. Ensminger.
All right, thank you. We'll ask Ms. Ensminger, we'll let her know about the possibility of speaking, of emailing us or speaking at the public hearing. Thank you. Colleagues, I'm going to now ask if there are any brief comments that you want to make about the city manager's budget address. I'll just start by saying one of the best things about this budget address is no surprises. Madam Manager, thank you for keeping us so well informed as we moved up through this process. I'm super excited about some of these new initiatives and some of the continuing ones. The full funding of the housing bond, the creation of the community safety department and staffing of that department, the language access coordinator, and there are many other city council initiatives that there were so many details in the budget that you weren't able to mention, but I really appreciate this. I'm excited about the green and equitable infrastructure plan. It just is just a super exciting budget, and can't wait to get into it a little bit more and pass this thing. Councilmember Freelon and then Councilmember Reese.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to reiterate your words of affirmation and to thank City Manager Page for a wonderful presentation. I particularly liked the bringing in the poetry of Amanda Gorman. I thought it was very appropriate. And it's been a really, we've talked about it already a little bit today, how difficult it's been over the past year for the city of Durham, but we could not be in better hands. And I share your divine optimism for Durham moving forward. Particularly, I'm excited about the transformation that you've talked about with the community safety department. And I'm curious, we'll talk about this, I'm sure, next week, but I'm curious what that intersection between that department and the community safety and wellness task force looks like, and just excited about the future. So just wanted to thank you and congratulate you on a wonderful first address. And I'm looking forward to voting on my first budget. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, City Manager Page.
Thank you, Councilmember. I'm going to throw down a challenge for you. I don't think anybody's ever written a song about a city council budget.
I love it. Only if you sing the hook.
I'm there. I'm there. Thank you. Councilmember Reese.
I'm going to no comment that last suggestion, but what I will say is this. Mr. Mayor, one thing I have often noticed in other government institutions is that when a new boss comes into an organization, there's often a tendency for that person to, or it takes a new leadership role, there's often a tendency to be careful, somewhat timid in your first set of proposals out the door, not wanting to step on toes or try to get a better feel for the new job. I'm thrilled to see that our new city manager, Wanda Page, has swung for the fences in this budget. It is an extraordinary presentation that we've received tonight. There's so much to celebrate about this. I'm not going to try to go into any of the specific details. Mr. Mayor, you and Councilmember Freeland touched on some of the most exciting parts also, but I will say maybe the thing I might be most excited about is that we're using our federal relief dollars to make bus fares free through the entire fiscal year, through June 30th, 2022. And I will just say, colleagues, it's going to be real hard if you expect me to vote to create those fares again in a year and a half, because folks are going to be used to it. It will have been 2 years. We can figure out a way to do it. In any event, that's next year's budget. For this budget, let me just thank the city manager that we hired to do this thing, for doing this thing so well. We're going to get into the details. I'm going to spend a lot of time over the next week and a half digging through what I'm sure is a very lengthy, many hundred-page budget book that is now excitedly downloaded on my computer right now. But let me just say thank you for going big. Thank you for listening to our community and to what our community needs. And thank you especially to our staff, who has worked under unprecedented conditions to produce what could very well turn out to be the best budget I've seen in my time on the Durham City Council. So with that, I'll let other folks talk, because I could go on a long time and I won't. Anyway, thank you very much, and congratulations, City Manager.
Thank you, Council Member. Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Manager Page, for that fabulous presentation and for how incredible this budget already is. I was really thankful for my standing desk that I got a few months ago, because it allowed me to turn off my camera and do a little dance while Wanda was speaking, because I'm so excited about how incredible things are looking. And we did not, last year at this time, we were really very deeply concerned about what this year's budget was going to look like. And I think it's really, it really says a lot about the city, about our staff, about the work that this community has done over the last year, that we are looking at such a fabulous set of new initiatives as we are. I'm so excited about the community safety department. I'm really happy about us being able to afford to hire so many new folks. I'm really excited that our staff are going to get the raises that they so much deserve and that we weren't able to give last year, as well as the premium pay bonuses from our federal money. I never want to charge a bus fare again. I'm really, really happy about where we are and where we're headed. And yeah, this feels like one of the best budgets we've had. So thank you, Wanda. Thank you to your staff, to our budget staff, to all the folks who are working hard on this. And we're going to dig in over the next few weeks to get this to the finish line. But it's going to be great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. Further comments, colleagues? Councilmember Middleton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam Manager, on tonight's just celebration. There was a fabulous presentation and a wonderful document. And I look forward to delving. This was an important threshold you crossed tonight. And for those of us that have known you in this community for years, timid is never a word we would have ever applied to you, no matter your job description. So you did exactly what we expected you to do, to come out with a roar and with a bang. I think ultimately our budget will be measured not just by those whose voices are loudest or who have the most access, but by those who are most impacted, who oftentimes don't have the organizational wherewithal to have their voices echo in City Hall. And I look forward to prodding and testing it for that. But this is a wonderful document. It captures, I believe, the values of Durham. I think it's pointed in the right direction. I don't particularly like this phrase, but they say the devil's in the details. So we will get into the details in coming days. But on tonight, this is a time for celebration and commendation to you and the entire staff. This is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful threshold crossing for you tonight. My congratulations to you and your staff, and my thanks. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Council Member. Any further comments? Council Member Freeman and then Council Member Caballero.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, colleagues, for covering all of the bases. I think I'm really excited about this WandaVision, and it's just I'm gonna use that a lot. I just want to say that I'm most excited about this office and I have to read it exactly as it is on budget, I'm sorry, I moved right away from it as soon as I touched it. But it's I'm sorry, the Office of Performance and Innovation of our Budget and Management Services Department. I'm mindful that all the many pilots that we've been doing over the last few years have to land somewhere, and it's always a concern that we do one and done, or that it starts and we don't finish. And I'm really grateful that you've managed to find a way to make sure that everything is landing and that you're asking for the staff that we need. I will just note there are probably a lot more staffing needs that aren't in this budget that I will be asking about. And then I also just know there are a few areas of concerns that I know I've raised in the past, but I really want to say that I know that this is the work that needs to be done. And I think similar to a comment that was made earlier, I think this is one of the best budget documents we've seen, that I've seen since I've been on council. And I'm really excited about digging into the details and making sure that we're going to be attuned to meeting the needs of the folks who are marginalized or often left out of this. I know that the work ahead isn't just about just saying that we're going to do it, but it's how we do it. And so I'm really, really going to be digging in around the affordable housing area, just acknowledging that the $95 million bond is the start. And so just noting that there's going to be a lot more work around that. I'm looking forward to what's ahead. So I really, really thank you. I'm looking forward to a time when we're doing a green bond on equity, and I'm just going to throw all of my dreams and wishes into this WandaVision so that they can all come true.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Caballero.
Thank you. I'll be quick. Madam Manager, thank you for an excellent presentation. I look forward to our hearings next week, and I'm really, really excited.
Thank you, Councilmember. Thank you for your comments, colleagues. Madam Manager, you can see that your initial budget has been met with great enthusiasm. And we've got to buckle down, do some more work, but I think we're in unanimous agreement. We're heading in a great direction. A lot of excitement about the initiatives that you've proposed. So thank you very much. And we'll see you at the next, we've got a couple budget hearings coming up very, very soon. And thank you so much, Madam Manager.
Thank
you. That was exciting and fun. Yeah, you know that you're, you know the sort of, you know that it takes a certain kind of person to be on city council when there's 7 people who are super excited about a budget. And I'm one of them. I know you all are as well. It is a sort of special qualification for this job. All right. We will now move.
He just called us all nerds. You know that, right? Okay. Just want to be clear.
Hey, that's your word.
If the shoe fits, wear it.
Indeed.
And thank you.
I mean, look at me, for goodness sake. Of course.
Okay. All right, colleagues, we're now moving to the general business agenda public hearings, and we're going to begin by item 28, the consolidated annexation item, Olive Branch West 2.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Would you consider taking up the vaccine equity piece real quick so
Sure.
that we could move that along? I know that there was a question raised about that.
I'm happy to do that, if you'd rather.
Just get that out of the way.
Sure, happy to. So the item, just to refresh everyone, the change in the memo from what we saw at the work session. At the work session, I had proposed, and the council had, that we hire,
vaccine equity.
that we contract with Cure Americas Global to do the, to be the contractor. Cure Americas Global is the largest contractor by far that the state has for community health workers. They subcontract with community-based organizations, including 9 organizations in Durham, which you'll remember were listed in the memo. And they have about 209 community health workers statewide who are under contract with the community-based organizations that they fund. After discussion with the city manager, I'll just, a couple people called me or wrote me and said that they thought that it would be better to have an RFP process. A couple of people said, you all received an email as I did raising some concerns about Cure Americas Global. And while I don't share those concerns, I don't want the council to get in a situation where we aren't thoroughly investigating any concern that's raised for us, or rather that our staff is doing that through an RFP process. So that's why, after consulting with the manager, she and I agreed that that was the best way forward. Councilmember Middleton asked, would it delay the process? And the answer is absolutely yes. The manager can speak to the timing, and I think that would be beneficial. She and I have talked about it, but Madam Manager, do you want to talk just a minute about the timing of an RFP process and the amount of time that it would take?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. One of the things about the
RFP process visit is going to allow us to get a little bit more into details around the operationalizing the initiative. We can certainly have a brief
advertisement of the process. We'll make sure that we send it out. You will recall when we were looking for nonprofit organizations to help us.
Our rental assistance program, we were able to publicize that. We put an RFP out for just a couple of weeks, but making sure that we get the word out and we have interested nonprofits that can be a leader in this space. Send us a proposal, and then we will move it as quickly as possible. But it certainly gives us the best opportunity to ensure that we are going to get what it is that we're paying for.
Speak to the amount of time that you think it will be, that the process will probably take, or a range of time.
Probably 4 weeks at most.
Councilmember Middleton, other questions or concerns or anything further on that particular question?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Madam Manager, for that explanation. I guess it just, a little thought experiment. I'm wondering, had there not been concerns raised about Cure Americas, would we be pivoting to the RFP process? And I'm wondering, is that what occasioned it? Because, and I could be mistaken, but it just seems to me one of the things that characterized the proposals and recommendations that came from the Recovery and Renewal Task Force was the agility, the presumption that we were operating under an emergency situation, and things that came from them. It just seems to me that they moved pretty quickly. I can recall sometimes when the vendor was already brought to us. I think when we did the recovery, the assistance for our business folk, I think that company was already brought to us. So it just seems to me that this seems to be kind of different from the way we've been treating stuff attached to the Recovery and Renewal Task Force and treating this as an emergency. I'm concerned because as the governor just lifted the mask restrictions, as we start to return to some degree of normalcy and folks start to become a little more mobile, the work of these vaccine ambassadors, finding people and getting to people as we're beginning to open up, I think is going to face challenges the more we open up and an RFP process, which I'm not against, but it just seems to me that this feels different than all of the other requests that were attached to the Recovery and Renewal Task Force. It just seems that urgency of us operating in a state of emergency seems to be a little absent from this one. Is that, I don't know if that's a fair characterization, but it just feels that way. And I'm concerned about getting to the people we need to get to sooner rather than later, particularly with the nation opening back up.
I share that. Yeah, I very much share that concern. The reason that the original proposal that I had put forth contained a particular vendor was exactly for the reason that you said. So we can go ahead and get moving. And I agree with you on the urgency. We are very interested in having our county commission friends, as you know, they're being requested to fund half of this. One of their members was one of the people that raised concerns about the vendor and the process. That was part of what got me thinking about this and discussing this further with the city manager. I don't want to be, in a situation where, we really need them to support this as well to get the job done. So that was one important factor. And then the other factor was just, I felt, and I think the manager agrees, that when someone like the email we got raises doubts about this, it bears some more scrutiny. And so those were the reasons, but I don't disagree with you at all. I mean, it is of concern that this will be slower than we would like for the rollout.
Mr. Mayor, final question. Were there no other vendors that play in this space that enjoy a good reputation and that could be a go-to?
There's one other vendor in the state that has there are 5. I discussed that with DHHS and I got a list of their vendors. There are 2 organizations that they have fairly large contracts with. One of them is Cure Americas Global, and the other is called KeyPro. And Cure Americas Global is the one that has been working here in Durham with our community-based organizations and already has the relationships. KeyPro does not. And so there were there's no one in Durham able to speak to, the community-based organizations or the vaccine providers able to speak to KeyPro's abilities. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we decided to recommend the RFP route.
Well, I'll dismount here, Mr. Mayor. I'll just say to put a fine point on is that for me, the raising of concerns doesn't necessarily or should not necessarily constitute de facto veto power. I mean, one of the things about operating an emergency power, I trust your judgment, and my, the way I've conducted myself, or at least looked at votes and decisions within the context of this emergency situation, this pandemic, was speed and agility. This is perhaps one of the most important asks I think that's been brought forth to us, to dealing in the brown community and Black community, dealing with disparities in vaccines. So I guess I'm just a little concerned and disappointed that at this particular critical element would be subject to regular order when we're still within the context of state of emergency. I would have perfectly trusted your judgment, but taking that to its logical conclusion, I trust your judgment of going for an RFP as well. I guess so. I'll just leave it at that. Look forward to the rollout of this. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Manager.
Totally understand. Those concerns are super legitimate. I share them. I've discussed this with Councilmember Caballero over the weekend. I know she shares them as well. Yeah, tough call. Councilmember Caballero?
Yeah, I just want to emphasize that we need the county to go in on this. It has to be a joint effort. And so if doing it through an RFP process is going to help move that along faster, even though I don't necessarily, I feel the risk. It's something, this is a conversation folks have been having since February, since the rollout of that, December, but, when more of our residents could be vaccinated, not just medical professionals. So since February, the public health community in this community in Durham has been raising the alarm. And you are absolutely right, Councilmember Middleton, it will absolutely delay that response.
Agreed. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Does it make sense? I know that you and Councilmember Caballero have already had a number of conversations with folks about this. Does it make sense to do one more round of reaching out to the folks on the county commission to see whether we could move this forward with the chosen vendor, and if we are able to, if we're able to ensure their support to vote this through on Thursday at our work session?
I'm happy to have those discussions, or try to in the next couple of days. If we did that, what we would do then is we would hold this item until Thursday, and we could decide then whether or not we wanted to go with the RFP or we wanted to go with Cure Americas Global. I'm happy to have those conversations, or at least try to over the next couple of days. Not sure what it would yield, but happy to try.
I think if we could secure a majority of the commissioners who would be willing to move forward with Cure Americas, and that would only take an additional 3 days as opposed to an RFP, which would take an additional month. It feels like it's worth one more try to see if we can impress upon them the urgency that Councilmember Middleton is expressing, which I very much feel as well.
Thank you. Councilmember Middleton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My thanks to Councilor Caballero and the Mayor Pro Tem Johnson. Fully associate myself with what they said. I would just add that, and if not Cure Americas, is there somebody else that they're more comfortable with? So I'm not wed to Cure Americas. Although I defer to your judgment on them, I'm just simply saying that is there another player? So it doesn't have to be Cure Americas for me. But if it's Cure Americas because there's nobody else, then I think just agility and urgency should rule the day on this issue. So my thanks to my colleagues. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Caballero.
I just want to speak to my confidence in Cure Americas. They are an organization that has been in the weeds on this issue for many, many months. I am willing to defer to the will of this group around that, but I do want to say that the CBOs who worked with them closely have very respectful and highly valued opinions of them, and it is why we went with them, because they're the CBOs. They're the larger nonprofit that most of the CBOs already have an established relationship with. I'm open to leaving this open until the work session on Thursday as well, though.
Thank you.
Mayor,
colleagues, I may call on you to help have these discussions. Councilmember Reese.
There was an acronym that Councilmember Caballero used that I wasn't familiar with, and I wanted to help me understand what that was.
Community-based organizations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. That's okay.
Yep. So let me see how we feel about this. Colleagues, are you all okay, or are you supportive of the notion that we hold this until the work session and that we take action at the work session, depending upon what we hear from County Commission friends about their interest in supporting Cure Americas Global or not? Councilmember Reese.
I'm supportive of that option, Mr. Mayor. Well, obviously, we'd have to move to suspend the rules on Thursday to take action, but I'm comfortable with that, given that we've had this conversation tonight in public.
Thank you. Others? I think I've already heard from, Councilmember Freeman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that the only concern that rises up for me is just noting, I know that the county has had a few issues around not issuing RFPs, and so I think that might play into some of why this was the case here. And I just want to make sure that we're not in the habit of strong arming the county to support the work that we're trying to do together, that we're working collectively in unison in a way that's very supportive of the whole county commission and not a fractured county commission, considering what's happened in the last week or so. I realized that the county manager was fired, and there was a fractured vote, and it makes me very uncomfortable to push back in and try to push for a majority of county commissioners to approve something like this. So just noting, like, there's just a lot of layers in this, and I think just being really careful about that.
Thank you, Councilmember. I agree that it's complicated. Colleagues, I think that we have some unanimity around having these discussions. I'm going to be probably calling on a couple of you to help me just to make sure we get all these conversations in over the next few days. Madam Manager, I'm going to ask that this item then be referred to the work session on Thursday. Do I need to do anything else, or is that enough?
No, that is enough. We will put it on the Thursday work session, Mr. Mayor and Council. And look
Thank you,
for
Madam Manager.
your direction regarding whether we negotiate with a nonprofit that you all agree will provide the
service, or to go as quickly as we can with an RFP, because this is really important work. We just want to make sure that we get the most investment in it and the most boots on the ground to help with it.
Thank you, Madam Manager. Councilmember Caballero.
I just wanted to extend gratitude to Councilmember Middleton for really making sure we had this conversation tonight and not just passing it, because I think we ended in a better place. So thank you.
Agreed. Thank you. All right, colleagues. Thank you. We'll now move on to our public hearing items. Thank you for our friends who are here for these items, for their patience. We'll begin with item 28, Consolidated Annexation for Olive Branch West 2. And I see Mr. Culture. Welcome, Mr. Culture.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Schul, Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, and honorable council members. Danny Culture here tonight representing the Planning Department. First, staff would like to state for the record that all department items have been advertised and noticed in accordance with state and local law, and affidavits for these notices are on file with the Planning Department. A request for utility extension agreement, voluntary annexation, and initial zoning map change have been received from Jesse Hardesty with McAdams, acting as agent for individual landowners, Shaw Hill 22 investors, Robert D. Sharon, and Joan T. Sharon, for 3 parcels of land totaling 59.055 acres located at 434 Olive Branch Road and 815 and 818 Doc Nichols Road. The annexation petition is for a contiguous expansion of the existing corporate limits. The site is being annexed to accommodate the construction of a proposed conservation subdivision of 108 dwelling units, which is under current review. Just to note, however, as conservation subdivisions are considered under administrative review, there are no requirements or guarantees through the annexation process that this type of development will occur. The site is located within the suburban tier and present on residential rural RR and Falls Jordan Lake Watershed Protection Overlay District B, or FJB. The proposed annexation area is designated as low-density residential and recreation and open space on the future land use map, which is consistent with the proposed zoning request. If the annexation is approved, staff recommends an exact translation of the zoning designation, and the request would become effective on May 31st, 2021. Staff determines that the request is reasonable given 3 factors. 1, development of the property proposed for annexation is found to be revenue positive based on a cost-benefit analysis conducted by the city's Budget and Management Services Department. 2, no city department identified an operational impact associated with providing city services to the area. And 3, the site is contiguous with the city's jurisdictional boundaries. Public Works and Water Management Departments also performed utility impact analysis for the utility extension agreement based on 110 proposed dwelling units, and determined that the existing water and sanitary sewer infrastructure has capacity to serve the project. There are 3 motions required for this application. The first is to adopt an ordinance annexing Olive Branch West 2 into the city of Durham effective May 31st, 2021, and to authorize the city manager to enter into a utility extension agreement with FFAC Olive Branch West LLC. The second is to adopt an ordinance for the transitional rezoning, and the third is to adopt a consistency statement. And thank you very much. Staff and the applicant team would be available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Culture. Colleagues, we have heard the report from staff, and I'm now going to declare this public hearing open. And first, I'm going to ask if there are any questions for staff by members of the council. All right, seeing none, then I will move on to the people who are here to testify in this public hearing. I have the following people who are listed as proponents: Neil Ghosh, Ryan Akers, Kurt Berger, Nick Williamson, Robert Sharon, Timothy Tucker. Mr. Ghosh, are you leading the presentation for the proponent?
I am leading the presentation for the proponents. I know Mr. Sharon
is here to speak in favor. I cannot say that I'm familiar with Mr. Tucker.
All right. Are the other people on the list that I just gave you?
Yes, they're all part of the team.
They're part of the team. Are they? All right. And but you're saying that Mr. Sharon is here to speak. Is he part of the team as well?
Well, no, he's part of the application, but not on the development team.
And he's planning to speak as well?
Right. That's my understanding, yeah.
All right. Let me ask, okay, Mr. Ghosh, how much time will you need for your presentation approximately?
I'm going to say 6 minutes.
All right. Mr. Ghosh, why don't you go ahead? We also have Matthew Cartes here, who is an opponent. And we will first begin with you, Mr. Ghosh. Welcome. We're glad to hear. And you may make your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Culture, for your presentation. Good evening, Mayor Schul, Mayor Pro Johnson, and members of the City Council. My name is Neil Ghosh. I'm an attorney with the Morningstar Law Group at 112 West Main Street in Durham. Tonight, the applicant for the proposed annexation, a project which we are calling Olive Branch West. Now, you might remember a project called Olive Branch West from about of last year that was voted for an annexation and conservation subdivision. Since being voted down, our team has gone back to the drawing board and revamped our site plan based on feedback council gave us in August, as well as feedback council has given the public generally about new development. In order to understand the full scope of this project, I think it's necessary to talk about counterpart to this project, Olive Branch East, which is directly was proposed by the same developer. You approved Olive Branch East in December of last year for rezoning on before you tonight. Olive Branch East was for the development of 108 townhomes. When we first came to council in August for the Olive Branch West project, our site plan showed 108 single-family homes. At that time, you all had not seen Olive Branch East. Even taken together, those projects would have been 50 split between single family and townhomes. We did not know at the time, but have come to understand that a 50-50 split is not desirable. So we went back on our site plan and have revamped it. The current site plan under review with the city for this site now maxes out the density for this site through a conservation subdivision. Instead of 108 single family homes, we now show only 78 single family homes and 34 townhomes, for a total of 112 homes. Across both projects, the split between single family and townhomes is now about 35% to 65%. The change to the site plan also results in a more efficient layout. With a switch to townhomes, we've been able to max out the density on this site at 112 units, and also have been able to save additional open space, which was a comment we received from you all back in August. With a conservation subdivision, you're required to have 50% of the area as open space for conservation area. So we had that on the last site plan, and we have that on this site plan as well. But with the new layout, we were able to get rid of a cul-de-sac and single-family homes that were around it, and serve an additional 1.5 acres of open space. So with the new layout, we've got more homes in general, we've got more townhomes specifically, we have more open space, and we have a more efficient layout. The other thing that we've been able to do is continue our conversations with our neighbors. For example, in August, the Sharon family expressed an interest in being annexed into the city, our request, and gaining access to water and sewer. We've been able to incorporate the Sharon property in the request, even though it is not part of our site plan. We also revised our site plan to provide the Sharon property with easy access to both water and sewer whenever the Sharons do decide to build. Some of our other neighbors asked that the new homes not be placed close to their property line, so we've incorporated that request into our new layout. The homeowner or property owner I'm speaking of in particular, our site plan shows the closest home on our site to his property line will be about 75 feet away. Moreover, his home is further up on the property, so the houses will be more than 100 feet apart. And as I understand it, he was very pleased with that result. So what you're looking at tonight is a project that has been molded by input from City Council, the planning staff, and our neighbors for the better. We hope to have your support tonight, and we look forward to your feedback. We have our team available to answer any questions, and thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ghosh. We will now hear from Mr. Sharon. Madam Clerk, could you make Robert Sharon available to be heard? Looks like he is available to be heard. Mr. Sharon?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. I am the property owner of 815 and 818 Dr. Nichols Road and part of the annexation request tonight. I just wanted to be present in case anyone had any questions and to let you know that the developer, Kurt Berger, has been a big help in getting us annexed and kept us informed along the process. And I do appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sharon. We appreciate you being with us tonight. Mr. Ghosh, before I get to Mr. Tucker, is there anyone else on your team that would like to be heard?
I don't believe so. We have our team available to answer questions as they come up.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, let's see, and I see that Ms. Wyatt is helping Mr. Tucker. Mr. Tucker, let's see, do we see him anywhere available, Madam Clerk? Can we try to make Mr. Tucker available to be heard?
Mr. Mayor, I have made Matthew Kartas, an opponent, available to speak tonight.
Okay. Mr. Tucker, I want to go with all the proponents first. Can we make Mr. Tucker available to be heard? Timothy Tucker. Mr. Tucker, if you are, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome, and you have 3 minutes, Mr. Tucker.
Thank you. And I apologize. This is my first public meeting. I don't know all the etiquette and the propriety for addressing.
No worries. We're happy to have you here.
Okay, thank you. And I think, keeping in mind my 3 minutes, my concerns were addressed in the questions that I emailed back to the people that reached out to me. Regarding the road systems, I think that's my biggest concern. If the road systems will handle the increased traffic for all of these annexations, the water and sewer studies, have they been conducted?
Mr. Tucker, Mr. Tucker, excuse me one moment. Mr. Sharon, I believe that you're not muted. Could you mute your microphone? We can hear we're hearing a little, I think, background there, Mr. Sharon. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Tucker. My apologies.
Thank you. And I'll be brief. I do have a barking dog downstairs. I've tried to mute him. I can't. And I think you heard probably about my concern about the water and the sewer projects that are ongoing and whether whether constructed with the new watershed setup and what will happen, if that will be not a danger to the lower lying houses in the area, because currently it's on a 100-year floodplain, is my understanding, the adjacent properties here. And just drawing on my memory, besides the road, the water and the sewer, if the noise, I don't know if all of those studies have been conducted. I don't have access to any reports. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. We will, after we're going to hear from Mr. Kartas, and after we hear from Mr. Kartas, we will take up your questions with the applicant and with staff. So thank you very much for those questions. Mr. Kartas, welcome. Mr. Kartas, you are the only opponent here tonight. And so I just want to ask you how much time you think you will need.
Less than 5 minutes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for being here. And we know you've been with us before, and we're glad to have you back.
Yes, I've been part of more of these meetings than I ever thought I would be. So I appreciate everybody's time this evening. So I thought I'd join you guys this evening again in opposition of not just this development, but the numerous developments that have gone on around this area. I'll just do some quick math and, just kind of give you guys some context on this, right? So half of this existing property that's looking to be developed is already in a floodplain. So to refer to it as a conservation easement is just referring to it within what they could develop anyway and not any special consideration. To call it a conservation easement and yet with densities of townhomes and less than 2/10 of an acre per home when you factor in roads and the available property to develop is hard from what I would imagine as a conservation subdivision. Just a little history on this. About 10 years ago, tax dollars spent about $1 million in stream restoration on this very stream adjoining this property. And that was to improve the water quality into the Falls Lake and the drinking water for this community. You know, that had risk being completely reversed, as well as, you know, potential sediments and runoff from this level of density this close to Lip Creek. I'll shift my concerns over to traffic on Olive Branch and the surrounding areas. You know, last time I joined you guys, it was approved for 1,200 homes. Now, I haven't joined all of the council meetings, right? I just can't. But if you look at the amount of annexed property that is surrounds within a 3-mile radius of this property, and the amount of acreage that's already been approved to be annexed, and the amount of homes going in, I would estimate that that is in excess of 5,000 homes that have yet to be built. So we have 5,000 homes of property that's already coming from a development standpoint, and there's been no updating of the infrastructure, right? There's been a sewer pipeline that's been installed, so the rest of these developments could occur. But in terms of the the roads and traffic mitigation and all of these other items, there's been absolutely no updates in the infrastructure for as long as I've lived here, since 2003. This annexation also causes donut holes along Doc Nichols and Olive Branch. I remember that being a concern on one of the previous meetings that I joined. So you will have homes that are underserved, right, that'll border city limits and yet will not have service. And then this community and all of the communities that have been recently added will all go into a failing school jurisdiction system. So the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school for this entire area fail based upon, not my opinion, but the grades that they're assigned to by the state, right? So we had a wonderful meeting from the city manager, or I'm sorry, wonderful presentation from the city manager earlier this evening about capital improvement and everything else. And I understand this is just one subdivision and it's 112 or 108 homes. I would ask Mr. Mayor, you and this team on this call this evening to actually put together a roadmap and an infrastructure plan for East Durham. So we're not having a conversation one subdivision at a time. And there can be a pure plan on what's going to be developed and how we're going to update the roads and how we're going to handle all of these influx of residents that are coming to this area. Because one left-hand turn on each of these rural roads every 500 feet is not an improvement plan. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Cortez. We very much appreciate you being with us, and we will ask that some of your questions be addressed. Thank you. Is there anyone else who has not been heard on this item, who is present today, who would like to be heard on this item? This is a public hearing. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard on this item that has not been heard? All right, I don't see anyone. Thank you so much. All right. I'm going to, I've been taking notes of some of these questions, and I think I'll just go ahead and ask some of them to our staff and the applicant. Let me just take on one of these. Maybe I'll ask Mr. Culture. Mr. Culture, one of the questions from Mr. Tucker regarded sewer service to this area. Do you want to speak to that? Also, he and Mr. Cortez discussed runoff, stormwater, the nearby stream. Could you address both of those, and then I'll ask the applicant as well.
Certainly, Mayor Schul. The first item, as far as the stormwater, as far as sanitary water and sanitary sewer capacity, there was a SUDS done, which is a utility development statement put out by Water Management. So they analyzed the capacity for the water and sewer based on a certain amount or size of development. The applicant did submit to show that for actually 100 8 units, but the UEA and the UA recognize 110, and the SUDS actually recognize an increase of allowed of 10 units above that.
Thank you. So you're saying there is sufficient sewer service to serve this development?
According to what, yes. Yes, according to Water Management's analysis, there is.
Thank you. How about the question about runoff, stormwater, the stream that goes through this area? Could you speak to that, please?
I can briefly speak to it. I may have to allow the applicant to speak somewhat because the site plan is not associated with the annexation request, and that is actually reviewed by our development review staff. But the applicant did send me a site plan to look at for the proposal. And with the conservation subdivision, I think someone also mentioned, density with the townhomes, but a conservation subdivision actually recognizes the density allowed within the RR district. But what it does is it allows clustering with no minimum lot size so that all the conservation open space can be preserved on the site. But to answer your question about the stormwater, the stream buffers, the floodplain would be protected to the rear of the site according to the applicant's site plan. And they would have to design, of course, stormwater facilities to meet current city and state standards.
Thank you. So, Mr. Coulter, just because I expect that a couple of the people who are attending may not be aware of the process, we are not reviewing a site plan tonight, but a site plan will be coming to the planning department, and perhaps already has already come to the planning department. In fact,
it is under review.
And it's under review. And when the planning staff reviews that site plan, how will it review I want to make sure the people who are here asking questions about runoff and so forth understand the process. How will that review take place? Who will review that? How will it take place? And what kind of requirements will be in place?
There are multiple departments that actually review the site plan. It goes out to all of our main departments, Public Works Engineering, Public Works Stormwater, Transportation, Inspections, Fire, just all of the normal departments for review. City Stormwater does actually analyze the site plan, which the applicant does have to provide a stormwater impact analysis for that to be reviewed. And that is just to show that there is capacity, and what they're somewhat proposing as in a schematic sense on the site plan will actually meet the stormwater requirements. They go into further detail, of course, in the construction drawings.
Thank you. All right. And then Mr. Cartes has raised, as many people have over the last year, issues about traffic in this area on Olive Branch Road and the surrounding roads. Would you, or is Mr. Judge here? I see Mr. Judge is here. Could speak to the impact of this development on the roads. Mr. Judge, thank you.
Bill Judge, City of Durham Transportation. As you picked up on, and as Danny indicated, there is not a development plan associated with this, but generally on this particular property, it is the northern boundary is surrounded by floodplain and stream. So while we have the Wake Durham Collector Street plan, there really are no collector streets running through this particular property. It will be served pretty much entirely from Doc Nichols Road, Olive Branch Road, and I think there's a stub street from the existing subdivision just to the immediately adjacent to it that they'll be connecting to as well. But some of the other larger parcels in the area, we are working on developing that collector street plan through Del Webb. Del Webb Arbors Drive is a good example of a collector street where it connects through from Leesville Road all the way down to T.W. Alexander, that we were able to utilize or have built with development. Pendle Farms is also building a large collector street through that property as well as it develops. So yeah, unfortunately, due to the environmental features and proximity to that stream. There are no real collector streets going through this property, so they will be basically utilizing Doc Nichols and Olive Branch, but there's more than adequate capacity to handle it and the other developments that are under consideration in the area.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. All right. I think those are some of the important questions that were raised. Another question that was raised by Mr. Cartes is about a plan for this area. And so maybe I'll go ahead and ask Ms. Young if she could comment. Ms. Young, Mr. Cartes has raised the question about long-term planning for this area rather than a development by development plan. This is something that we've heard a lot about recently, and I know you have been working on. And so could you speak to that, please?
Certainly. Good evening, Mayor and members of council. Yes, there is an effort underway currently that we are calling the Southeast Durham Focus Area. It is a subset of our work on a new comprehensive plan. And that's kind of sub-project of the comp plan is looking to address a lot of the growth issues that we're experiencing in this area. Things like roads, open space, environmental protections, recreation opportunities, what the right mix of uses, what the appropriate density should be in this area. That process is currently underway. There's actually a public information meeting scheduled for this Thursday. If anyone is interested, I can put that information in the chat for anyone. And then we are having 2 additional focus groups to deal with specific policy and topical issues related to the area. Those are being scheduled for the near future as well. I don't have dates for those yet, but work is underway, Mr. Mayor, as you alluded to, on a big picture plan for this area.
Thank you, Ms. Young. All right, colleagues. Any questions, comments? I know I've probably worn out my welcome. Council Member Freeman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to follow up on a question from staff, or question to staff, just acknowledging, I think it was Mr. Curtis' question. Can you speak to how it works annually to kind of track back and review how closely the actual runoff is with the stormwater or other areas that were in the various studies? Just acknowledging what it looks like on the other side once the development's in place, how we're covering that.
Thank you, Council Member Freeman. I can speak a little bit on that. I know that Stormwater Services would be able to speak much better, in much greater detail than I could. But once a development is approved, there are actual stormwater public or access agreements for the facilities, and those have to be maintained and reports sent in to the city on a periodic basis. I cannot remember the exact basis. It may be yearly, but I'm not sure on that. But they do have to file reports and show that these stormwater facilities are still functional and operational as they are designed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. Council Member Freeland.
I just had a quick question about something Mr. Cartes mentioned about the floodplain, the percentage of the conservation subdivision that was a floodplain. Well, I guess the suggestion was that it's not a true conservation subdivision because most of it is a floodplain anyway. And I was curious about that. Does a certain percentage of what's conserved need to be like a trail or park or developable land in order to be considered a true conservation subdivision? And does this meet the threshold? I was just curious about that. Someone from staff could answer that question.
Thank you, Councilmember Freeland. I will try to speak to a little bit based on the conservation subdivision standards. The way they're designed is that you have to actually conserve 50% of your whole site in open space. 4/5 of that has to be done in what we call primary conservation areas and floodplains, stream buffers, certain other features actually qualify, and if you can't meet that qualification, then you cannot design and build as a conservation subdivision. If you can't meet all the criteria for preserving the 50% conservation open space, as well as the 4/5 being in primary areas of conservation open space.
Got it. So, okay, thank you for clarifying that. So this suggestion, I guess, that most of this is a floodplain, so it's not a true conservation subdivision, is not an accurate assessment.
That would be correct. That is what qualifies a conservation subdivision, is to conserve all of these environmental open space features.
Got it. Thank you.
Mr. Cultra, could you also comment on the relationship of, having a conservation subdivision also provides an opportunity for density outside of the conservation area, is that correct?
So to speak, the density that you are given within a rural residential zoning designation is the density that you can use. The conservation subdivision actually allows you no minimum lot size, as you would for a traditional rural residential designation. So it actually promotes the clustering in order to conserve all of the conservation open space.
Thank you. All right, colleagues, other questions? Councilmember Caballero.
Yeah, in the memo, it discusses how it could be that because it's a direct translation, that the 3 allowable zonings was the conservation subdivision, up 1 acre or over lots, and then agriculture. And so I just wanted to make sure that the commitments that are being made by the developer have to be followed through today, regardless of, we had a case a few weeks ago, I think it was Chandler's Run, that the commitments that the developer made weren't actually binding because it was a direct translation on zoning. So I just wanted to see if it's the same or similar circumstance.
That is correct, Councilmember Caballero. If this is a direct translation, the annexation would be approved based on just the straight rural residential zoning, except adopted into the city. So there is no guarantee that this conservation subdivision would be constructed, even though there is one in for the approval. But that approval for that site plan can't be given because they're trying to use city infrastructure. If this were just a straight county subdivision and not with the city infrastructure, they would be bound to at least a minimum acre lot size because in order to provide a septic system for those lots.
So if for whatever reason they have this plan, it could fall through, but because they've been annexed, they could still then divvy up the parcel into 1 acre plus lots.
That would be correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. I'm going to ask Mr. Ghosh now if you would like to. I see, Mr. Ghosh, you've raised your hand. Do you want to comment on any of these items?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for calling back on me. One thing I wanted to touch on was the density and conservation subdivision idea. This is absolutely conservation subdivision, which what it allows you to do is to essentially transfer the density on what you might consider the undevelopable areas to other areas on the parcel in exchange for conserving that area. So that's exactly what we're doing. The density that we're achieving on the overall acreage is not greater than what could be achieved under the current zoning today. The conservation subdivision aspect of it allows us, as Mr. Cultra has mentioned, allows us to reduce that minimum lot size, which is why we are able to do townhomes on this acreage in the first place. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to do it. Is through the conservation subdivision. And I will say, I recognize that the site plan is not a commitment, but I will just, we are very invested in the site plan. This is a project that came before you with a different site plan in August, and we have revised that site plan. So this site plan has been in review in some shape or form for the better part of 2 years. If this project, if this annexation is approved, you know, we very sincerely hope that our site plan approval will be just close on the heels of that, so we can begin to implement this project in conjunction with Olive Branch East. And that's another point that I wanted to bring up. One of the unique aspects about this type of development is that this developer actually has a project, Olive Branch East, on the other side of Olive Branch, and this project, Olive Branch West. So what will end up happening, unlike what you see in most other development scenarios, that portion of Olive Branch Road is going to be widened on both sides at roughly the same time. So instead of getting the widening on one side, you'll get it all through that section at one time, which I think is actually a pretty big boon for this area. I mean, I'm not going to discount what Mr. Cartes says. There is, you know, the infrastructure needs to be updated, and the primary way that infrastructure is updated is through private development, and usually on a piecemeal basis. And in this case, that piecemeal basis is going to result in Olive Branch Road getting widened on both sides, which I think is probably a pretty big benefit. The other thing Mr. Cartes mentioned, and I can't really speak to it, is the stream restoration. I can't speak to that because I don't know anything about it. But what I will tell you is that the Searles outfall that the city is implementing comes through that stream area. Right? That has nothing to do with this developer. If this project isn't approved, the city is bringing that outfall through the stream on the northern side of this property, which is in the conservation area. I don't know how that would, you know, I can't speak to the investment in stream restoration that happened previously, and I can't speak to how the city's new investment in the Searles infrastructure will impact the previous investment in stream restoration. What I can tell you is that that Searles outfall is coming through this property already. It's done. That's something that's funded and being implemented by the city. So this, you know, this is going to allow, the annexation would allow this property to be developed in a manner which is respectful of this environment and places that northern side of the property in constant conservation, which I think is, you know, in fact, the entire point of the conservation subdivision is that if you own, for example, 100 acres, 40 of which are undevelopable because of environmental reasons, the UDO allows you, the conservation subdivision tool, to transfer the density from those acres that are otherwise encumbered to the rest of your property in exchange for agreeing to conserve those areas. So that's what we're trying to do here, and we've done it in a way that I think is very responsive to the feedback we've gotten from the city council and from our neighbors previously, and from the planning staff for that matter. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ghosh. One other issue that I meant to ask about, Mr. Cultra. Mr. Cartes mentioned that that this was going to create non-contiguous islands. This development is contiguous to city limits. I think maybe what he means is that it will, there are some lots on the other side of Doc Nichols roads that will continue to be outside the city limits. Is that correct?
You are correct, Mayor Schul. This does create a contiguous annexation because it is adjacent to the full city proper. But I do believe there are a couple of lots that would be, yes, left unannexed.
Yeah, it looks like I'm looking at the map here. It looks like there are a bunch of them, but this is contiguous. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Colleagues, other questions and comments? Councilman Reese.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have any questions, but I did have some comments. Is this an appropriate time to deliver those?
Absolutely.
Awesome. First of all, I want to thank staff for a great presentation and giving us a good amount of context on what's at issue here. I also want to especially thank Mr. Ghosh from the applicant for reminding us of the procedural history of the adjoining property, and Mr. Cartes for helping us remember exactly what's happening in this part of Durham as we run piecemeal through these applications for annexation and rezoning, and slowly but surely convert this part of Durham into the type of housing that you see out there. I spent a good amount of time yesterday and today driving through this part of Durham, and I got to tell you, as someone who has voted for some of these and someone who's voted against some of these, it was pretty darn depressing, actually. I know that that many of us believe that we need a lot more housing in Durham to accommodate the influx of folks who are moving here. I know that many of us believe that if we don't get that additional housing supply, that our new neighbors are going to buy homes in gentrifying neighborhoods in Durham and end up displacing many of our neighbors, and that is a good and sound reason in many cases for supporting the construction of new housing in places where we might otherwise prefer there not be houses, at least not right now. And so I first want to say how much I appreciate all of the thoughtful conversations that we've had over many years together, and the very conscientious votes that each of my colleagues have taken on these issues. Ultimately, in my view, I'm not sure there is a right answer to these questions. There's only the best that we can do with the information we have and the cases that are presented to us. I will just say that in December, when the companion case to this came up, I was one of the folks that voted against that particular measure. This particular item today is somewhat improved from that, if only because it makes use of the conservation subdivision and preserves portions of this from future development. I take Mr. Cardis's point about the fact that they couldn't build in the floodplain anyway. Totally understand that, but these are again the bad choices we're left with in this part of the city. So I'm still not 100% sure what I'm going to do with this case, but I'm grateful that I'll have the benefit of the wisdom of my colleagues before we vote on this. The last thing I wanted to say, Mr. Cardis, is that, as I might have mentioned, I'm one of the folks on this council that's been as skeptical of residential development of this type in this part of Durham as anyone on this council. But sir, if you are trying to convince me to vote against residential development in any part of Durham, describing any of our Durham public schools as failing schools is not a way to get on my good side. I think it's been readily established that the letter grades that you're referring to were imposed by the Republicans in our General Assembly as a way. They don't measure achievement. If you look at the scores and where the scores are drawn from, they measure socioeconomic status. What you're measuring there is poverty, sir, not failure. And so just urge you to be more careful as you talk about these things, at least in my presence, and appreciate the opportunity to hear from my colleagues on the underlying issues. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Council Member. Other comments or questions, colleagues? Councilmember Freeman.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you to Councilmember Reese, always nailing the point. I think the attorney in you helps. I think that specifically what's kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and a lot of this is the context of the annexation as the way to move forward, noting that if they didn't have the annexation, it wouldn't happen anyway. And so it always just, it just feels wrong. But I do note that this case, the improvements are marked. And I think that increasing the density in the areas that aren't in the floodplain on this large of a lot or large of a parcel is very different from our CASA conversation. And so I'm kind of in the middle as well, but I'm very well aware that this suburban sprawl that we're creating is going to create a tax calamity, so to speak, as we move forward, acknowledging just how much infrastructure we need to address in our historic communities or historically, underserved communities, and then also the ones that we're creating. And so I know that this feeling that we can cover it all does it's underscored by our state legislatures, stance that we only have a regressive property tax to cover it. And so I'm not sure that this is in the best interest of the city and moving this forward right now, especially noting that it isn't in tandem with the site plan and it isn't binding, makes it even less of appealing. And so just noting that for my colleagues, I'm almost certain I'll vote no is where I'm at, but I'm looking forward to hearing some conversation that might shift my thoughts on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Caballero.
Yeah, I had a question for Sarah, if that's appropriate.
Of course. Ms. Young.
Hi.
Sorry, that finger is just not working right tonight.
And I think I misnamed the case. I was trying to remember because we had a case and I said it was Chandler Run and it was not. It was Triple Crown, and it was the same. And I'll say my concern. My concern is that it's the same company. It's a direct translation, meaning it does not follow the process. It does not have to go before Planning Commission. We've had some conversation on council around direct translation annexations and how we, miss that advisory component in these cases because it doesn't go before Planning Commission. And I just want to go ahead and say my concern that we've seen two similar cases, very close back to back, and I'm concerned that folks are figuring out how to get around our process. And that is my concern for this evening. So I am very much an if right now. I think that the conservation subdivision is the best use that we're going to get when I think about a development in this particular area. But there is no legal binding thing that they're going to owe us as a community if for whatever reason their project falls through. And that just gives me a huge amount of anxiety. So that is where I am this evening, colleagues. And I just wanted to flag this broader concern that I'm having.
Thank you, Councilmember. Ms. Young, do you want to comment on that?
I'll just say that normally I would have the same amount of concern. I think the one thing that gives me a little bit of, puts me at ease is just knowing the development climate and how the market is working right now. That I think if these projects fall through, more than likely what will happen is that another developer will pick them up and do a conservation subdivision, because it's really mobilizing and doing the work for large lot subdivisions on well and septic is not something that most of our kind of frequent flyer residential developers are really geared to do. And it's a different, it's just a different endeavor. So I don't necessarily have that concern that we would necessarily go to big lot subdivisions. I think if it were to fall through and someone would be marketing the property again, in the city this time, we would get another, what I call kind of big box residential developer that would do another conservation subdivision. And the conservation subdivision, like we said, is the one bit of, I think, foresight that the ordinance had back in, 2006 when it was written, to try and really incentivize the preservation of environmentally sensitive areas by giving folks a more streamlined way to move forward through the development process. But again, as we move forward, we're certainly happy to rethink things. And definitely we as staff have our eye on several things that I think are playing out that are not necessarily in the community benefit. And we'll be looking at those.
I appreciate that. Thank you for that guidance.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Other questions or comments, council members? I'll comment. I do have some comments. When we sent this, when we turned this down originally, we didn't like the amount. We thought it wasn't dense enough. And now it's come back to us with the maximum number of units that they can get on this piece of property. And I think that's a good thing. And at the same time, and they're doing that through the conservation subdivision. To me, the point about the conservation subdivision, yeah, you're not going to be able to build on the floodplain anyway, but the conservation subdivision then allows you to have smaller lots, and that's a good thing in this case. And so I think, yeah, I think that's good. I think that Councilmember Caballero makes a great point. When we have these direct translations, we sometimes don't know what's going to come next. I think in this case, we know a lot about what's going to come next, and I feel a lot of confidence in it. We can never feel 100% confidence about that, but I think this is, we've got pretty good confidence given the specificity of the site plan, the length of time it's taken to develop it, and so forth. And we also have the knowledge that if people don't do what they say, they're going to come back to us later. Mr. Ghosh comes in this room a lot, and we have to be, they have to be cognizant of that fact as well. I think that, Mr. Cartes has raised the important point that we face all the time, and Councilmember Reese has spoken to it tonight about the traffic situation out here. And I'll just, say again that I believe that the current road system is good enough for now, that it will handle this and more, and that we need some real work out there, and we got to get the state of North Carolina to help us do that work. I think our planning, the planning that we're going to be doing out there is going to help with that. It's going to help us figure out what we want and where we want it, and what road requirements that we have that we think are important, that we can work with the state. And, I am very struck by the fact that we hear a lot from people who live out there now, who moved out there in the last few years, who don't want other people to live out there now. And that troubles me a lot. We have lots of people moving to Durham, and if we are serious about housing affordability, we have to continue to increase supply. So barring something, yeah. So that's where I am. I think in a lot of ways, this is, there are a lot of good things about this development. Is there a trail, Mr. Ghosh, is there a,
yes, there will be a dedication of a greenway easement in the conservation area. And I actually think it, for the most part, follows the Searles outfall that's going through there. I think they'll be kind of coterminous for the most part. So as the city clears for that, there will be a cleared area for the Greenway Trail. Yeah.
Is that publicly accessible?
Let me see if someone on our team can answer that. I'm gonna guess. Let's see if Ryan Akers is on.
I'm on. This is Ryan Akers with McAdams, 2905 Meridian Parkway, Durham. The trail easement is being dedicated, but because it's in environmentally sensitive areas, it's going to have to be part of the much larger program that the Parks and Rec Department will have to entitle as part of a longer termness that the Army Corps of Engineers and the State Department of Water Resources will permit. So for right now, we're going to stub to the future trailway, and we will dedicate the easement, but we're not actually going to build it yet until it's part of a larger system that can be permitted through the state and the federal government.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Akers. Colleagues, any other questions or comments? Any other questions? Councilmember Freeman.
Thank you. If you would just, I just wanted to ask if it might be possible to arrange a 4x4 tour of the Searles outfall area so the folks could see exactly what it is that we're talking about. I think it's important to understand the context of the land over there. And I know that we've had conversations about it. We've seen pictures, and I'm not sure how many of us have been able to be as close to it as Councilmember Reese has noted a few times, trespassing. I know I passed by the front, like the front of the property location, but I really would like to get permission if the council could arrange a 4x4 tour. I think that would be phenomenal. I'm serious, but I'm laughing, but I'm really serious. It would be nice to.
Yeah, thank you, council member. I think we can ask our staff to do that. Thank you. Other questions or comments? If not, colleagues, I'm going to declare this public hearing closed, and the matter is now back before the council. If this item requires 3 motions, the first will be to adopt an ordinance annexing Olive Branch West 2 into the city of Durham effective May 31st, 2021, and to authorize the city manager to enter into a utility extension agreement with FFAC Olive Branch West LLC.
Moved as read.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Middleton, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Johnson. Any further discussion, colleagues? Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Schul,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Caballero,
Aye.
Councilmember Freelon,
Aye.
Councilmember Freeman,
Nay.
Councilmember Middleton,
I vote aye.
Councilmember Reese.
I vote no.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The ayes have it. The motion passes 5-2. Madam Clerk, I'm sorry, the second motion would be to adopt an ordinance amending the Unified Development Ordinance by taking property out of the residential rural RR and Falls Jordan Lake Watershed Protection Overlay District B, FJB, county jurisdiction, establishing the same as residential rural and Falls Jordan Lake Watershed Protective Overlay District B, FJB city jurisdiction.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Middleton, seconded by Councilmember Freelon. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Schul,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Caballero,
Aye.
Councilmember Freelon,
Aye.
Councilmember Freeman,
Aye.
Councilmember Middleton,
I vote aye.
Councilmember Reese.
No.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The motion passes 6-1. And the third motion would be to adopt a consistency statement.
Move to adopt consistency.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Middleton, seconded by Councilmember Freelon. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Schul,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Caballero,
Aye.
Councilmember Freelon,
Aye.
Councilmember Freeman,
Aye.
Councilmember Middleton,
I vote aye.
Councilmember Reese.
No.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The motion passes 6-1. Thank you, colleagues. Mr. Ghosh, you and your team have heard from the council. We wish you the best of luck. We also are going to be very much looking forward to you all completing this project according to the site plan.
Thank you very much. And I will say, no joke, Mr. Akers said he just put some mud tires on his truck. He'd be happy to roll out there sometime.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate
All
it.
right.
Councilmember Freeman's got her ride out there. Thank you. All right, colleagues, we'll now move to our second public hearing item. This is zoning map
Mr.
change.
Mayor,
Sure, Councilmember.
we breezed right past our 9 o'clock break for our closed caption folks.
We sure did. Even though Ms. Wyatt reminded me. Thank you, Councilmember. Colleagues, for our closed captioners, we're going to take a 5-minute break and we will be back at 9:37. Please remember to mute your microphones.
I was just gonna say for Neil Ghosh, if you could just identify if there's a 4-wheeler involved, I'd be more than happy to take you up on that.
Now at 9:37, back from our 5-minute break. I hope you had your snack. And we're now going to move to the next public hearing item. Item 29, zoning map change, Selby Avenue Homes. And I'll first ask if we can hear the report from staff.
Thank you again, Mayor Schul. Danny Coulter, still with the Planning Department. The request for tier boundary change, future land use map change, and zoning map change was received from Katie Hamilton of Stewart for one parcel of land located at 1518 Riddle Road, totaling 3.59 acres. The site is presently zoned residential suburban 20 or RS20 and residential urban 5, RU5. The applicant seeks to change the zoning designation to residential urban 5 with a development plan or RU5D for up to 26 single-family attached or detached dwelling units. The applicant is also seeking to change the current development tier from suburban to urban. The future land use map is designated as low-density residential at 4 dwelling units an acre or less. If the zoning and tier boundary changes are approved, the recommended FLUM proposes medium-density residential at 6 to 12 dwelling units an acre. This change does not require a separate motion and would take effect concurrently with the zoning map change and tier boundary change. The Planning Commission, by a vote of 7-5 at their February 9th, 2021 meeting, recommended approval. There are 3 motions required for the application. The first is to adopt a resolution amending the tier map and change the comprehensive plan from the suburban tier to urban tier. The second is to adopt an ordinance for the rezoning request, and the third is to adopt a consistency statement. Thank you, and staff is available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Coulter. Colleagues, you have heard the report from staff, and I'm going to now declare this public hearing open. There are 3 people who have signed up to speak on this item: Alden West, Jason Clayton, and Katie Hamilton. And I see that the clerk has made them all available to be heard. Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'm going to ask, are all of you all here to speak, or are some of you here in case there are questions?
This is Jason Clayton. I'm the owner of the property. I'm here to answer any questions of council or staff. Thank you very much.
How about Alden West and Katie Hamilton?
Hi, this is West. I'm a civil engineer with Stewart, and I'm representing Jason, the developer, here to answer any questions. Thank you.
All right. And Katie Hamilton?
Yeah, this is Katie Hamilton. I'm here with Stewart as well, from 101 West Main Street, and I will be presenting the case. Staff actually has a very quick presentation.
All right. All righty. You all are the only 3 attendees here, so I'm assuming there's no one else who is interested in speaking on this item. Go ahead, Ms. Hamilton, with your presentation. We're glad to have you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, and City Council members. We appreciate your giving us the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Selby Avenue rezoning in front of you this evening. This application is brought forth by the property owner and developer, Ludlow South. And my name is Katie Hamilton, and I'm here with Stewart as the project landscape architect. And Danny, if you can move to the next slide, please. Thanks. Just a little bit about the context for our site. The site is extremely well situated for infill development, as it has direct access to the Riddle Road spur of the American Tobacco Trail and has a bus stop being proposed on Riddle Road directly adjacent to the site. The site also provides walkable commutes to nearby schools using this trail network. The site is also close to the intersection of Riddle Road and Highway 55 and will be accessed through Kirby Street via Selby Avenue. And we are currently have a dead end on Selby Avenue on our eastern property line. So we will be extending that dead end into a cul-de-sac for our neighborhood. There is an established neighborhood to our south, Emery Woods, which we will not be connecting to in our proposal. Next slide, please, Danny. As can be seen, the site is currently split zoned RU5 and RS20. The RU5 portion of the site is just over half of the site area. And we would like to rezone to have it be consistently RU5. When we looked at the adjacent development along Kirby and Selby, we realized that most of those parcels are actually not meeting RS20 zoning standards. And those that are size-wise are rarely doing it with the frontage requirements when you're looking at Texana Circle. But so most of the ones on Kirby are 10,000 square feet or so, and then Selby actually ranges from 6,000 square feet to 20,000 square foot lots. Based on that, we do think the RU5 designation for the entire parcel is appropriate here. Next slide, please, Danny. The issue with having the split zoning is that it is not conducive to a cohesive neighborhood design. We're proposing to rezone to RU5D to allow us to keep a similar product from across both sides of this cul-de-sac that will be extending Selby Avenue. And it allows us to develop at an intensity that's more in keeping with the closest lots and meets the intent of proposed density for infill development where appropriate. Next slide, please, Danny. As I said, this just allows us to develop the neighborhood as a cohesive whole with both sides of the street matching. In the event this zoning doesn't go forward, the north side of the street would have approximately 16 units, while the south side would have 2 units. It feels very unbalanced. So having a cohesive zoning across the entire lot is paramount to making this really feel like a neighborhood. This also allows us to promote infill development using existing infrastructure in an urban area, both above and below ground, and provides opportunity for more housing in an area that really needs it. Next slide, please, Danny. The reason we went with a development plan is to ensure that we weren't going to the highest extremes that RU5 does allow us. So we really have committed to only allowing single family and attached houses, so 2 units per house structure. And then with that, those structures would be limited to 4,500 square feet, which would be 2,250 square feet per unit max. We are limiting ourselves in the text commitments to 26 units, but we do have a site plan before city staff already that has 24 units. And we will be building a connection to the American Tobacco Trails Riddle Road spur that's adjacent to our property. And as per required by Go Triangle, we will also be building a bus stop platform. And then next slide, Danny. And with that, we're available for questions. Trying to keep it short and sweet for y'all. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you, Ms. Hamilton. We appreciate your presentation. All right. We have no other people to speak today. And so now I'm going to ask if there are questions or comments by members of the council for either staff or the developer. I'll ask a couple of questions that I have. My questions, Ms. Hamilton, you're adding 9 students to Durham Public Schools as I read this. Many developers proffer $500 per new student added to Durham Public Schools. Have you all considered such a proffer?
That's fully acceptable with me as developer. I'm more than happy to proffer that.
All right, thank you. And you all also have not proffered any contribution to the Durham Affordable Housing Fund. Have you all considered such a proffer?
We have, and we would be willing to commit to $1,000 per unit overall. So not additional units, but units.
Thank you. Thank you. So can you, let me ask Mr. Cultra to, if he would, how should those proffers be made appropriately, Mr. Cultra?
Excuse me, Mayor Schul, I was actually writing those down. So we would actually request those be placed in as text commitments on the cover sheet of the development plan. And there's usually timing mechanisms for those. I can't remember the exact timing mechanisms. I think they would be, typically they're possibly at site plan or prior to building permit.
All right, Mr. Coulter, I don't see Ms. Young, cavalry to the rescue. Ms. Young?
Yes, that is correct. Usually they are at least by building permit. So when folks submit for their building permit, then that is that proffer. We receive the checks then. The one thing I did want to mention also is that, Danny, we will need the form signed,
Correct.
consenting to the proffer. So I just want to remind the applicant of that in addition to placing it on the face of the development plan.
Thank you, Ms. Young, and thank you, Mr. Coulter. And thank you, Mr. Clayton and Ms. Hamilton for those proffers. All right, colleagues, questions, comments? Councilmember Freeman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I thank you for asking about the proffer around affordable housing and DPS. I just wanted to note a word of thanks to the developer in acknowledging the existing neighborhood and taking that into account with your plans. I know that the Emory Woods neighborhood has a long-standing history of trying to contain their neighborhood in the way that it has been formed. Just acknowledging as one of the few middle-class Black legacy neighborhoods that we have in the city. And I just appreciate you taking the care to acknowledge that Kirby Street would not be open, or you wouldn't be using any more than Kirby Street. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. Other questions or comments, colleagues? Councilmember Reese.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Go ahead. If you had something to say, I can wait.
Okay, I will. Thanks. I just wanted to be clear. I really like the inclusion of the Redfin data, but I do agree with Tom Miller in this case that the use of the Hope Valley data isn't really helpful here. So I've been pleased with the addition of the Redfin data that we've had recently, but I do want to just say here, I don't think it was useful and it was kind of misleading. So just a comment for the future, and appreciated Mr. Miller pointing that out. I rode the Riddle Road spur today, rode past this on my bicycle, rode past this property, and I just think, you know, if we don't approve infill development like this with a little more density and right on a trail, then what do we approve? Yeah, that's my comment. I don't think I have anything else. Let me just look at my notes. I think those are my comments. Thank you. Councilmember Reese.
Mr. Mayor, you stole my thunder on the Redfin data. I shouldn't have let you get in there. So next time, no soup for you. I'm just going to keep going. Forget it. Yeah, so I agree with what you said about that. I also visited this property today. I did not ride the trail. I parked on Selby Avenue and walked through the woods, as my colleague, Councilmember Freeman noted. It's a really...
You're under arrest.
Yeah, thanks. I don't believe you have the...
I think the property owner will excuse it.
Don't worry about it.
It's a thank you so much. Thank you. That's the first time that's happened, by the way. So I appreciate it. Points for you. It's a very sweet piece of property. It reminded me of us as a small version of that piece of property we annexed near Lee Farm, where I voted no and y'all voted yes, which was fine. But this is your traditional infill development. I often read Commissioner Miller's comments to get a good sense of kind of where the pressure points were. I thought he had some interesting things to say about design commitments, but we did see some design commitments here, and I thought they were fine. I didn't really agree with him at all about the trail being the line demarcating the different densities. That seemed to be more of a function of Riddle Road than the trail. And regardless, I agree with you, Mr. Mayor. If we're not going to do infill development that's a little bit denser along a transit corridor, along a trail, I don't know what we're doing here, which is probably more than I needed to say that I'll be supporting the measure tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. Other comments, colleagues? All right. I'm going to now declare this public hearing closed, and the matter is back before the council. The motions that we would need, the first would be to adopt a resolution amending the tier map and future land use map with a comprehensive plan from the suburban tier to urban tier.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Reese, seconded by Councilmember Middleton. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Schul,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Caballero,
Aye.
Councilmember Freelon,
Aye.
Councilmember Freeman,
Aye.
Councilmember Middleton,
I vote aye.
Councilmember Reese.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The ayes have it. The motion passes unanimously. The second motion is to adopt an ordinance amending the UDO by taking property out of residential suburban 20 and residential urban 5 and establishing the same as residential urban 5 with a development plan.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Reese, seconded by Councilmember Middleton. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Schul,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Caballero,
Aye.
Councilmember Freelon,
Aye.
Councilmember Freeman,
Aye.
Councilmember Middleton,
I vote aye.
Councilmember Reese.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The ayes have it. The motion passes unanimously. And finally, to adopt a consistency statement.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Reese, seconded by Councilmember Middleton. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Schul,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Caballero,
Aye.
Councilmember Freelon,
Aye.
Councilmember Freeman,
Aye.
Councilmember Middleton,
I vote aye.
Councilmember Reese.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The ayes have it and the motion passes unanimously. Ms. Hamilton, thank you to you and for the development team for being here. We're looking forward to you all doing a really good job there for our city. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your time.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
All right, colleagues, we're now to item 30, the contract with Downtown Durham, Inc. to operate the Downtown Durham Municipal Service District, also a public hearing item. And we, of course, had some discussion about this at our work session. But let's see who is here from staff to speak on this item. Mr. Nixon, welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. It's a full day today.
Yes, it is.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Madam Mayor Pro Tem and members of council. I'm here, but I'm going to defer to the president and CEO of Downtown Durham, Inc. To address any questions related to this matter, but I'm actually here as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nixon.
Yeah.
All right. Ms. Thompson, are you available to be heard?
Yes, I am. Yes. Sir.
Thank you. You presented to us previously. Do you have anything you want to add to that, or are you just here for taking questions? Thank you. Colleagues, there's no other attendees here to speak on this item. And so are there any questions that you have for either staff or for Ms. Thompson? All right, thank you. I'm going to declare this public hearing closed, and the matter is now back before the council. We would need a motion to, let me ask, let me ask the attorney, Madam Attorney, for item 30, do we need 4 separate motions?
I believe so, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, I was hoping you wouldn't say that. Thank you. Okay, colleagues, the first motion would be to conduct a public hearing to receive comments on the proposed. We did that already.
Yes.
The first motion would be to authorize the city manager to execute a 5-year contract with Downtown Durham, Inc. to operate the Downtown Durham Municipal Service District from July 1, 2021 through June 30, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Freeman, seconded by Councilmember Reese. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Schul,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Caballero,
Aye.
Councilmember Freelon,
Aye.
Councilmember Freeman,
Aye.
Councilmember Middleton,
Vote aye.
Councilmember Reese.
Aye.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The ayes have it and the motion passes unanimously. Second, we need a motion to authorize payment to Downtown Durham Inc. in an amount up to $1,181,500 during the first fiscal year of the contract.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Freeman, seconded by Councilmember Reese, I think. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Schul,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Caballero,
Aye.
Councilmember Freelon,
Aye.
Councilmember Freeman,
Aye.
Councilmember Middleton,
I vote aye.
Councilmember Reese.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And finally, we need a motion to authorize future payments subject to City Council budget authorization.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Freeman, seconded by Councilmember Reese. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Schul,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Caballero,
Aye.
Councilmember Freelon,
Aye. Aye.
Councilmember Freeman,
Aye.
Councilmember Middleton,
I vote aye.
Councilmember Reese.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The ayes have it. The motion passes unanimously. Mr. Nixon, thank you for being here. Ms. Thompson, thank you for being here. And we're looking forward to working with you all for the next 5 years.
Mr. Mayor, if I may have a quick point of personal
Of
privilege.
course, absolutely.
Just want to congratulate President Thompson and her team on the job they've done. Last year was a particularly challenging year, not just for downtown, but for the whole city. But I watched you folk work under some really, really challenging conditions to still protect Durham's brand and the neighborhood downtown. I also want to just echo again I thought the spot on concerns that Mayor Pro Tem brought up during our discussion about making sure that we ensure that the space downtown is welcoming and that we don't default to old ways of dealing with problems. There are challenges there that we would always be humane and aligned with Durham values in the downtown area. So I just want to congratulate you on this vote tonight and the continuing good work that DDI does for all of us in the city. So just wanted to put that out there. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Freeman?
Thank you. And thank you, Councilmember Middleton. I think it's important to note that the work of DDI has been a great model that might be something that we see in the future in our uptown or midtown, as we move forward in this comp planning conversation, because I think that kind of TIF model of the district, the mid district, is something that could help some of our businesses outside of downtown and just acknowledging as we move forward. I just want to thank Ms. Thompson as well for her leadership in this, especially in the year of COVID.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. All right, colleagues, thank you very much. Thank you again, Mr. Nixon and Ms. Thompson. We appreciate your being here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, colleagues, our final item of the night is the FY22 stormwater rates. As you will remember, we received a presentation on this at the work session. And I see Mr. Wiebke is here with us. Welcome, Mr. Wiebke.
Good evening, Mayor Schul and Mayor Pro Tem Johnson and Council. Paul Wiebke with the Department of Public Works. This item proposes to raise stormwater rates for the fiscal year 2022, effective July 1, 2021. The public hearing was noticed in accordance with state and local requirements. The proposed monthly increase for residential customers would be 25 cents for tier 1 at a proposed rate of $3.75 per month, 51 cents for tier 2 residential customers at a proposed rate of $7.76 per month, and $1.03 for tier 3 residential customers at a proposed rate of $15.55 per month. The proposed monthly increase for other residential and non-residential customers or commercial customers is 51 cents per 2,400 square feet of impervious surface at a rate of $7.76 per month. There are two motions that the administration recommends the City Council approve. The first one is to conduct a public hearing to receive public comment on the proposed FY 2022 stormwater rates. And the second motion would be to adopt an ordinance to change the fee schedule, revising stormwater rates effective on July 1, 2021. and I'm available for any questions you may have on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Whipke. I'm going to now, you colleagues, you've heard the report from staff. I'll now declare this public hearing open. I don't see anyone here to comment on this. And so now I'm going to ask if there are any questions or comments that you all have for Mr. Whipke. Councilmember Freeman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I really, I appreciate the creativity of what's come about with the water and sewer rates. And I am like, really, I want to kind of echo that thanks that we were carrying over into how this model for addressing the lack of flexibility in our taxing system has helped, and acknowledging that when you apply a progressive fee rate in place, acknowledging that we have a water fund as well, it makes it a lot less of a hindrance to raise the rates as low as we have for the smallest usage, and then and just a little bit higher for the larger usage, and just the simplest way to say it. I'm mindful that this model is something that folks that are across the state are trying to implement, and so I just wanted to say thank you to Mr. Whipke and the team and staff for kind of championing this. I know that the mayor actually led the way in having this conversation, and I appreciate your creativity on this, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. Other comments, colleagues? All right. I'm going to now declare this public hearing closed, and the matter is back before the council. We've already conducted the public hearing, so I'm going to ask for a motion to adopt an ordinance to change the fee schedule revising stormwater rates effective July 1, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Freeman, and I am sorry I missed the second.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Middleton. Thank you. Okay. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Schul?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson?
Aye.
Councilmember Caballero?
Aye.
Councilmember Freelon?
Aye.
Councilmember Freeman?
Aye.
Councilmember Middleton?
I vote aye.
Councilmember Reese?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The ayes have it. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Whipke.
Thank you all and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. I think it's too late for that. No, we've had a wonderful evening in our own way, in the way that we do it. And so, colleagues, just a couple of things to wrap up. First, again, many kudos for our city manager for the great budget presentation. I think we're all excited for that. And I will see you all at the next couple of sessions, the budget sessions. I did want to go back and just for a second and just mention, I'd like to have a discussion prior to Thursday with each of you all, as well as the county commissioners. We were talking about the vaccine equity issue. So I'll reach out to you all, give you a call. Y'all each give me a call if you can. Just want to discuss a little about that with you before we go into Thursday. And I am really looking forward to that song about budgets. It's never been done, Councilmember Freelon. Never been done before. All right.
Rhymes with budget.
I don't know, but that's why we have Councilmember
Don't make up
Freeland.
numbers. Just don't try to fudge it. I don't know, something
Fudge
like
it.
that. Maybe work that in, Pierce. See what you got.
That was great. I'm
I've got
very
bars.
impressed.
You don't even want it. You don't even want any of this. I got bars.
You're gonna have to go to the next cipher.
Ooh.
Okay. Colleagues, thank you. Always great to see you. We did some good work tonight, and I'm now going to declare this meeting adjourned at 10:06 p.m.